The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
Hello. I don't know what happened to 4, 3, 2, 1, but good evening. How's everybody doing this evening? There are a lot of you in here. Thank you so much for being with us. Tara, thank you for being here.
I don't know why you thank me. It's almost like I'm supposed to be.
Well, I mean, you are. And I'd probably text you and be like, get on here. But so as you guys, most of you know, Tara and I did go ahead and drive back home today. I am a homebody, so I just wanted to be at home, like with my horsies and, my own bed and stuff. So we drove home today. And so we've been home for a couple of hours, or at least I have. Tara's probably about the same. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We are going to recap our notes from day 2. So not just a summary, but our complete notes of the day. If you're looking for just a quick detail overview summary, then this probably isn't going to be the live for you. Last night was 3 hours long. So I just want to make that clear. It is very, very detailed. So if that's what you want, if you want all the details of the hearing, then please stick around. We're so glad to have you.
Agreed. And that's all I have to say about that.
And that's all she has to say.
It's been a lively couple of days, for sure.
Yes, it has. Your screen name always cracks me up, but Turd Ferguson, thank you so much for the $4.99 super chat. Really appreciate that. And yep, thank you for being a member for 2 months. And also thank you for being a mod. And to the rest of the mods that are in here, thank you so much. We appreciate you greatly. The chat, we just ask that you please keep it respectful. Remember that your words that you type have meaning to other people. So let's just be nice in the chat, and be respectful. Be respectful of the families, be respectful of the victims, and of us, the mods, and each other. And that's it. Those are the rules, and I'm done with it. All right. So let's first, did a really good overview summary of our live last night to recap yesterday's. So for those of you that were not here yesterday and haven't been able to watch that that live, let me just share Yep's recap on this. Let's see, which one is it? Okay, this is it. Can everybody see it, I hope?
Oh, hold on. Give me a second. I don't know which one you added, but I got to add it for me.
And you guys, I did something really cool tonight. So YouTube has given creators where we can make a goal for super chats. And then get this, Tara doesn't know yet. So I made the goal, I think it's 10 super chats in 2 hours, right? And when you make the goal, you have to say like how you're going to celebrate that goal. Well, Tara is going to sing for us if we get 10 super chats.
Is that where that crap came from? I was wondering what the flipper stuff. No, who was doing that shit? Like, where Tara's? No.
Tara's going to sing. Tara
you spelled wine. No, you spelled wine wrong. Wine is W-I-N-E, not S-I-N-G. Who? No.
Oh, that's great.
Oh my gosh. This is what I get for... Oh, you just wait.
That's what you give her hanging around me. Nighthawk said, we appreciate your channel. Thank you. You're really caring. Thank you so much, Nighthawk. I appreciate that.
We know in addition to that, with all the money, I see a bunch of dollar signs coming across the screen. I mean, we got a lot of Venmo and Cash App and PayPal, all those donations. Thank you guys. Holy crow.
Yes,
that was amazing.
That was amazing.
My phone started blowing up last night and I was like, what the hell just happened? She's like, well, I may have ran this banner across the way, so people like it. And I'm like, apparently so. Thank you. Sincerely, thank you. That's, yes, an unwilling participant is accurate. Yep, correct. But thank you very much for the support. Yeah, God, shut up. I'm gonna mute her. But from the support we got just from driving into the community, people walking up, showing
my God.
support, hugs, the smiles, the thank yous were just, it was amazing. It's kind of weird for me. Carrie's probably used to the celebrityism, but I'm just like, okay, cool. I'm tall. That's as awesome. I'm just gonna go with the flow.
She
So
said,
thank you.
this is awesome. Oh, geez.
So thank you for the support. It means a lot to us. It's actually pretty motivational. I think it feels like we're on the right path when we have that kind of support. So thank you very much. So yeah, then we can go back to what you're on the screen with, because I totally hijacked the situation.
No, that's fine. That's great because yeah, I feel the exact same way. The amount of support that we had out there was truly amazing. Everybody was super, super kind, as they always are. That's my third or fourth time there. But we met a lot of new people this time.
Mm-hmm.
We got to see other people again. And so it was just wonderful. It truly, truly was. The first night that we were there, we were offered dinner, so we didn't even have to go out to eat. Like we got a home cooked meal in a house and
Oh
everything.
my gosh, it was
So that was
amazing.
amazing. It was so good. I ate 2 plates. um, no, not shy here, but yeah, it was amazing. Everybody there is so, so kind. And we just really appreciate you guys. Truly, we do. Thank you for everything. And let me see. Kathy, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. We really appreciate it. Um, Patrick, you can think on what song Tara's gonna sing as soon as we have 7 more,
Patrick, you
and then
traitor! What
she's going to do that for us, Patrick.
the
Don't listen to her.
woohoo! What the hell? No, she's not. I'm a rap. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna rap it out. West Philadelphia, born in anyway.
Okay, so let's see. So this was her post from yesterday. I don't know that you guys can actually see it on the screen, but let me read it to you real quick. And then this is Cora's testimony, and then she also did one for Paul. So that was so helpful. Yep. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yesterday, the preliminary hearing for the brutal murders began. Tiffany Adams waived her right to the hearing, as did Cole Twombly. Is this one today's or yesterday's? Oh, yeah, this was yesterday. Okay. So the plea agreement, there's a lot of questions about this plea agreement with Cora, and I've heard it being discussed. It's not, a lot of times it hasn't been accurate. Cora will be required to testify to her knowledge and role in the crime in this hearing, as well as any subsequent trials. She will plead guilty to first-degree murder and conspiring to commit murder. In exchange, the DA will recommend a life sentence with all of it suspended, but 30 years, with an additional 10 years for I think it's the last fifth charge on there or something. It's the
I
last
think
charge
so.
she has. Yeah. So she got an additional 10 years for that. I believe they dropped 2 of those charges. Cora stated her reason for taking the plea deal was to protect her daughter from potentially testifying. In the testimony, Cora testified to starting to watch videos about constitutional rights with Cole as the start of the group forming. And the group is going to be God's Misfits. Paul Grice would later come into the picture when he came to purchase a puppy sometime in 2021. That would be the formation of God's Misfits. Tiffany and Tad would join in later as the group started to grow, including another local family, the Cooks. They met on Sundays at the Twombly's, and then later they met at the Cooks on Wednesdays. In August of 2022, Cora's minor daughter, CW, would start to babysit Veronica's children at meetings. Cora and Tiffany bonded over family issues, weapons, even giggling during testimony at some points. Cora was told the children were abused by Veronica's brother. She never saw any proof of the allegations before the crime took place. In August of 23, Tiffany told Cora that she could no longer afford to fight in court against Veronica for the children. Cora was told in a later visit by Tiffany that she needed to get rid of Veronica, which she took as that meant she needed to kill Veronica. Another incident took place during this time that the group prevented Wrangler, the children's father, from picking them up, and Cora described this as a call to arms.
Wait, so that was
Go
what was
ahead.
funny though. I'm gonna stop you
Yeah,
because
go ahead.
actually the district attorney said, "I want to talk about the call to arms. Does that make sense to you?" And Cora kind of, yeah, I know what you're talking about. And so she kind of agreed with it. She didn't correct him, but she knew exactly what she was talking about, what he was talking about when he said the call to arms. So it must be some lingo they have in the background that had not been introduced.
Yep, I agree. I had not heard of this call to arms either.
We'd heard of the situation, just not that name
Mm-hmm.
for it.
Yeah, yeah. So after this, when approached about killing Veronica, Cora would tell Tiffany, you need to do what you need to do. The initial plan was to have Tad throw a vise from the truck as Cole drove. Tiffany told them to practice, throwing this. They were going to practice at hay bales. But Tad did not think that they needed to practice, so they didn't. The plan was to drive Cora's truck as it did not have GPS. Tiffany bought burner phones for all of them, as well as tasers. CW, Cora's daughter, was also aware of this plan and even saw the vice. This plan would fall through as Veronica never left the night they tried to enact it, and this was the night of Veronica's birthday this year. Cora claims she did not know when Paul was brought into the plan. They would discuss the plan in detail, her and Tiffany. Tiffany would lure the women into a horse trailer by telling them that the children were in it and they were petting a calf. Cora claims she did not know at the time that Jilian would be present, although Tiffany knew the Wednesday before the crime that Jilian would be because she had called off Cheryl Bruni. Cora claims, Cora's role would be a lookout. Cora claims she did not know Jilian would be present until the day before. There was never another option discussed besides killing Veronica. Nobody had a bright idea to say, maybe you could try this or do this. No, there were no other options. That was it. They had to kill her. On March 29th of 24, the day before the murders, they would go to the site of the murders and they would practice the plan, a suggestion that Tad gave. Cora claims that Cole was not present at this practice. She stated they all wore gloves and, quote unquote, they were used to it. So they didn't plan on putting gloves on. They just all miraculously did. March 30th, 2024, Veronica's car was left at the scene on purpose and never moved. Tiffany was to lure Tad and Paul were to kill them. Cora would find a place on the highway to sit and watch for Veronica. She also had a gun and a stun gun. Seeing Veronica, she called Tiffany to report there was someone in the car and a truck behind her. The truck then, unfortunately, turned off. The plan did not work, though, and she saw Veronica and Paul struggling on the ground as she approached. She saw nobody else. This is Cora. She saw nobody else but Tiffany and Paul asking for help with Veronica. Paul said, I need some help. I need some help. So Tiffany handed items to Cora and went to help Paul. Cora was told to wrap Veronica and Jillian's phones in tin foil and then place them in an ammo can and destroy them. She got the phones out of Veronica's car and she did indeed destroy them. She saw Paul on top of Veronica, presumably stabbing her. She also saw the freezer in the trailer and Paul and Tad trying to move Veronica into the trailer. The trailer was moved closer to Veronica's body. Eventually, the trailer gate is closed with Paul inside. Paul had cut his finger, so Cora gave him tape and finished putting dirt on top of blood at the scene. They then drove to Tiffany's house. Cora was asked to go to the burial site to calm Paul and Tad down. She changed her clothes and put them under her floorboards in her closet. And then she went to find Cole, who she met on the road. Cole then started to gather clothes for Tad and Paul because they had none. So that was Cora's testimony. You have anything to add to that, Tara?
As far as her demeanor, she was matter of fact. Actually, somebody texted me today when I described the demeanor and from what we saw yesterday, that, from her stoicism to her being really upset, she's a stoic. She's very much a stoic is how she's to be represented per another person. So On the stand, she's very matter of fact, like it didn't bother her. And Carrie made that comment yesterday. It just didn't seem like anything bothered her when she was going through the testimony. But apparently, that's who she is. She tends to hide her feelings. But that would be the only thing. It's just her demeanor in the courtroom.
Yeah, like I said last night, she just came off. It was just weird, you guys. It was weird. I mean, as a mom and a grandmother, um, it was okay. So I do need to say one thing. There is a part of the cross examination with Cora that Tara and I missed. Unfortunately, that was my fault.
It
But we did not.
was? What?
It was my fault. I'll take the blame. But
Oh,
we did not make it back into the courtroom on time after lunch. Okay, let's move on from that. But yeah, so we did miss
sorry.
it, and we were actually outside the courthouse when they brought Cora out. And the whole time that we were in or that Cora was testifying, she had really no emotion. There was a couple times she looked like maybe she might be tearing up, and you kind of see her gulp and stuff, but really they're just I just think I would have had a whole lot more emotion, right? But, who are we to say? Who knows? But when they brought her out of the courtroom, Tara and I were outside, and then you could see she was visibly bawling. I mean, snot from the nose, the whole works.
She was
Um,
upset for
she was
sure.
very, very, very upset. So there is that. Um, Leah, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Just 6 more in Terracine.
Y'all quit it. I mean, don't quit it, but quit it. The one thing I will clarify is yesterday in the live, and I was corrected today. It was it was made. We were not in the courtroom at the time when it was talked about why Cora was testifying. She was testifying in order to protect her daughter from testifying, and then the comment was made, and very confidently so, and very rightfully so, that meant that Cora's daughter would not be testifying. That is inaccurate. It is if there is a trial and there is a need, then CW will be testifying. There's no way to get out of that at this point. So that was reported inaccurately last night with good intent, mind you. The information was just kind of construed a little bit differently than what we understood. So to clarify that.
Yes, thank you. And Donna Miller, I made it a little bigger, so hopefully you guys can see it a little bit better. All right, and then this is Paul's testimony. A strong trigger warning on that for sure. The plea, Paul Grice agreed to plead guilty to the murders of Veronica and Jilian, as well as conspiracy charges, in exchange for the death penalty being taken off the table. An interesting exchange took place in which Tad Cullum's attorney stated he was only trying to save his own skin. In response, Grice states, "My skin's not worth saving." So yesterday in his testimony, Paul said that he met Tiffany through Cole and Cora. He said they would share dinners and prayers with a group that consisted of 15 adults and numerous children. Paul was married and had children. Before Christmas of 2023, he had recently moved back to the area. He stated that the group had an anti-government political component. Paul said he filed papers at the courthouse, but he did not achieve the state nationalist title. Tiffany told Paul that she had a video of Veronica's brother admitting to abusing Veronica's children, yet Paul never saw a video. He also never asked for it either. Tad also said that Tad told Paul that he had a 26-page document validating the claims, and that document was in a safe at his mother's house, although Paul never saw that either. Tiffany would speak on the children, stating that they were not safe, often, especially when her and Paul were alone. He said that Tad brought it up less than Tiffany. In early February 2024, she came to speak with them for over 2 hours. This was just Paul and Tiffany. Paul said that Tiffany would bash Veronica constantly as a mother, as well as the parenting of the kids as a whole between Veronica and Wrangler. When asked if he would help kill Veronica, he said he would, quote unquote, he would think about it. He claims she would use Bible verses to manipulate him and make him feel obligated to help. He stated that he had a lot of hatred and bitterness inside of him that clouded his judgment. They would have many meetings where the plan was discussed. Cole was not always at those meetings. They would speak of the plan at the end of the cook's driveway. He said he could not remember if Cole was present, but he knew he was at one meeting for sure. 1 week prior, they went to the location of the murders while Tiffany explained they would lure them in the trailer to kill them, and Tad had a place to bury them. Tiffany brought up using tasers in case the idea of the kids did not work to get them into the trailer. Paul was concerned with the plan to get them in the trailer. He states a hammer was his idea to knock them out. Tiffany stated it did not matter how it happened. It just had to happen. Paul stated that he did not know the burial location until the day of the murders. He also did not know Cole was involved in the plan until the night before. He said he was very nervous the day of the murders. He said they hooked up the trailer and they left about 8:30 a.m. that morning. He described his clothes that would later be found in the freezer with the women. He said he forgot his stun gun at home, and so Tiffany provided him with another one. He also had a gun and a hammer on him. When the women arrived at the scene later, Tiffany told Veronica the kids were in the trailer petting a calf, as Paul crouched down inside the trailer, waiting and watching through the trailer slats. That was just horrifying to think of that.
Mm-hmm.
Veronica leaned in the trailer. Of course, she thinks she's going to be seeing her kids petting a cute little calf. So she leans into the trailer, and then Paul attacks her. He attempted to use the taser, and he hit her with the hammer multiple times. He chased her and kept trying to shock her, but he shocked himself instead until he tackled her. He said he saw Tad and Tiffany grabbing Jilian. He heard a scream and a gasp from Jilian. He did not know what to do, so he stabbed her, meaning Jilian, right? I think.
Yeah. Well,
He
he just heard a winding down. It was what was it? He remembers hearing bloody somebody. Oh my gosh, words are hard. I haven't transcribed all my notes yet, and I'm going to do that, and I'll put them on the site. But he remembers somebody screaming bloody murder, and then what I can only identify as being like that final gasp, that
That's
last
how I
gasp.
took it.
So I'll get all mine. I've got like 35 pages of notes, and I say I mean like 35 pages of notes that I'm going to transcribe and put into a document so we can have that online. But yeah, that he could hear that. He actually took in a lot of information, not as much as he could have, but that was something that he made clear. He could hear bloody murder screaming and that final gasp.
And yeah, thank you, Tara. And then for all of you that are just coming in, thank you so much. We are just going over real quick yesterday's testimony, and then we're going to move into today's. So he heard a scream and a gasp from Jilian. He did not know what to do, so he stabbed her. He states that he was scared. He cut his finger. He called out for help. Then he says that Tiffany began circling the scene and laughing in what he described as evil. That's such a weird vision. The vision I have is horrible.
Yeah,
Him and Tad loaded Veronica into the trailer. Paul then gets inside, and the door was shut on him, and they began to leave with Tiffany and Cora behind them for a while. He saw Jilian on her back, and she was still at first. And as they continued, he thought she was possibly still alive. He was feeling set up. He said, I felt I was the only one with blood on my hands. That's an interesting statement considering today's testimony and cross-examination. He was panicked about Jilian, so he decided to stab her again in the throat, and he drug her near the freezer. The following Sunday, Tad told Paul he tried to break Jillian's neck, but he could not. Now, remember, this is Paul's testimony.
Right. And so the thing I'm going to add on to that, the reason that Tad told Paul that is because Paul felt as though he had been set up. He was unsure that what was going on. He thought he was being set up to take the fall entirely. So he talked to Tad and Cora and either Tiffany or Cole, I cannot remember. And he's like, yeah, so I'm in the trailer with her, and Jilian wakes up, she attacks me, she goes for my gun, I had to stab her, to which Tad makes a comment about she didn't give me that kind of fight. And, Cora's left speechless. And if it was Cole or Tiffany, I don't remember, I have to look back at my notes, was cursing and upset about it. So that's where that came from. It was Tad was prompted by Paul, and that's how Paul found out about that.
Mercy.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Okay, so he said the following Sunday, Tad told him that he had tried to break Jillian's neck, but that he could not. He said they got to Beasley's property. They took Veronica's body out and then put her in the freezer, followed by Jilian. They had a difficult time moving Veronica, failing with a rope, and then resorting to using a skid steer to move her into the freezer. They then stripped all their clothes off into the freezer that contained Veronica and Jilian. The freezer was then buried and hay was placed over the site. Cole left without helping to spread hay over it. Tad filled in the hole with dirt, concrete, and then the hay. Paul said he then went home. His wife helped him with his finger. The cooks would also come over and use natural remedies on the injury as well. Him and Cole power washed the trailer days later. So that was the recap of yesterday. So today, oops, I still have a comment up there.
Yesterday was super hard. There was a lot. Yesterday, I think, was the hardest for anybody in that courtroom. There was media in the courtroom from Wichita, Woodward, New York. They were from everywhere. They were in tears. So I'm not a big fan of media. I am a critic. I'm a skeptic of them because of my experiences with them and my family situations in the past. It was, I hate to say the word refreshing, and I'm not sure what other word to use, but to see them get emotionally invested with everybody else in the courtroom was, it felt good to see because it was that strong of a situation, quite honestly.
Yeah, and the emotion in the courtroom yesterday got really rough, really rough. I mean, I was crying, trying to take notes with tears dropping on the paper. Everybody, I'd say the majority in there were crying.
Oh yeah, but yeah, the Judge Clark stopped the court.
Yes.
He stopped everybody for a second. The
He basically told us
counsel,
we needed to gather ourselves or we
well, I
were
think,
out of that courtroom.
yeah, the counsel approached the judge. They had a quick little sidebar. All counsel stepped back, and the judge said, "We're going to continue this. We have to continue this. It is hard. It's public information," which, man, that's kind of hard to hear given what we heard yesterday. And he said, "If you can't control yourself and your emotion, then please let us know. We'll escort you out. But we're going forward. Just know that." And everybody stuck it through as hard as, and nobody like wailed or screamed. It wasn't dramatic. It was, everybody was trying so hard
to hold back,
to contain themselves. So but it was so, and you want to call it powerful, right? But powerful isn't the word for what Paul described, for what he said, for the words he used. It was intense. What Paul said was intense. And I think that's important. You've got true crime individuals out here. Carrie and I have been theorizing based on all the information that we had. Some we shared, some we could not. And it doesn't, there's a reality check that gets cashed in a moment.
Oh my gosh, yeah, these are real people, real humans, real lives, real family, real children.
Especially when it's the victor. Paul did this. Paul was like, I owe the families, I owe them the truth. I owe them this in hopes they get closure, and he's struggling. And that entire courtroom, and I know family members will, and I don't blame them, would deny it, but I think everybody in that courtroom, even for a split second, were like, okay, we get it, but we fucking hate you. Like, he just
Yeah,
presented
I'm
information.
not afraid to like state my opinion on it. That is how I feel. And I've been kind of bashed for that opinion in the past, and that's okay because I can have that and everybody can have theirs. I mean, I think he's a horrific human being for what he did. That's obvious, and it goes without saying. But there's just something, I don't know if it's his growing up being abused. I'm not sure what it is, and it's not like I feel sorry for him. I just have this hard time thinking why, and how.
Why?
You know what I mean? So, let's see.
Yeah.
I was gonna. Bojangles said I need to go back and read Jillian's Emmy reports again. Okay, so Tara and I have never shared those on this channel.
Correct.
Tonight, I'm not going to share the medical report, but I am going to share the first 2 pages, only because it was what was brought up in court, and
It was.
that is the stabbing and the neck incident and things like that. So I do have that pulled up, and we're
So
going
I
to look at
and we
the
are
first 2.
we do have somebody that has extensive experience in understanding these things because they used to
Mhm.
create them. And so they won't come online with us. They won't come on live, and that's fine. They would like to, but there's some fear factors there. And so what Carrie and I will do is sit down with that person and go through those medical reports. So instead of just reading them verbatim, because there's a lot of technical information, a lot of Latin-based information in there. And so we're going to go through that and break those down so they're easier to digest and you can
Yes.
understand what those words mean. Because you can't just walk into those things and be like, oh, yeah, that means that, that, and that. It doesn't paint the right
Just start
picture.
reading this long 15-page medical examiner's report where
No.
you don't even know how to pronounce the
Well,
words, you don't know what they
and
mean, so we don't want to do that. It's just the
exactly.
first 2 pages only because they relate directly to the testimony that was given yesterday and today.
Right.
So, let's see. The News Nation reporter said it was like nothing she's ever seen in all the trials she's been to. I absolutely 100% agree. I've watched, I don't even know how many trials, too many. And maybe it was because we were actually there in the courtroom, although I've cried at trials on TV too. But it was, yeah, it was something else. It was
Mhm.
horrible. I don't know how, it was horrible.
Well, it was like
It was very sad.
it was like watching a Hollywood movie and you're in it.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the movie where in a very specific part of it is where Paul was like, I got in the trailer and somebody shut the door behind me and I was locked in and you could feel the moment with him like, oh crap. What next? Tell us more. Like keep going. It was very surreal, very in your face, very intense. And
Mm-hmm.
he wasn't being dramatic. He was very matter of fact about it. So it wasn't how he said it, it's literally what he said that was just a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
And Tara can probably address this. I mean, I can too, but Miranda said, Leah, the case has not been closed. They are still investigating.
To my understanding, the bulk of what they were looking for is done. It's not necessarily closed. There are a few things they're looking at, but as I understand it, they would not move towards trial preliminary. They wouldn't be in this process if they didn't feel they could do it.
Right. One of the news stations said today that Veronica's dad yelled out "bitch" at Tiffany yesterday in the courtroom. Did that not happen?
No.
No.
Nope.
He would have been removed from the courtroom if that had happened.
He mentioned,
he
I think
didn't.
that was early on.
That was the very first hearing.
Yeah, that was
And
early on.
when he did that, the very, very first one when they were oh crap, what is that one? Their initial
The
appearance.
arraignment.
That's what it
Their
was.
arraignment.
Yeah,
Their
yeah.
arraignment.
And
So
he did, and he had he had to be moved to the very back row of the courtroom at the time.
right
So
now, and he's since earned his seating up front,
yes.
right? So, and we can unequivocally tell you we were in the courtroom for all but a couple of hours yesterday, and no, Veronica's dad did not. There was no outburst from anybody. Veronica's dad, her mom, Jilian side of the family, nothing, no outbursts, nothing. So I'm not sure what I'll go back and if you can send that link for News Nation so we can take a look at that, that'd be
Yeah,
awesome. So we can
I
understand
didn't
what
have
you're
it.
talking about because I'm thinking one thing and it may not be the same thing as what you're thinking.
Right.
Y'all quit with them. What the hell? They're doing it again. Do you see that?
What are you gonna sing? Have you thought about it yet?
No, I'm not singing. Why'd you tell these people that?
Patrick said, "Is it
Thought you loved me.
possible?" Well, like where I'm just ignoring her. Is it possible that that the cooks and Paul's wife get charges after what came out in testimony now that they've been implicated? I think is what he meant. So the cooks have not been implicated, and I do want to make that clear.
Mm-hmm.
What we have is that they babysat the children the night before, and that Lacey Cook did help fix up Paul's wounded finger.
Right. So Paul's wife, Paul did.
And they did attend the meetings.
Yes, they did attend the meetings. Paul's wife was informed. I don't know what I just did there. Paul's wife was informed as to what he did when he got back home.
Right.
But it was questioned as to whether or not
Mm-hmm.
his plea deal included her situation, and he said he was not aware. He was never talked to
Exactly.
about that. So we
Yep.
don't know.
And I know that there are so many questions and so many, regarding the cooks. Trust me, I'm right there with you.
Go.
But we have to be very careful because they have not been charged with anything. And right now, we don't have any evidence other than
No, nothing.
or what we feel, what we think, and that's not enough in a court of law to convict somebody. And I don't want to convict somebody if they've not done anything. You know what I'm saying? So
What
we just got to be careful.
Ashley, will you find that link? I just got another
Yeah.
message. Ashley, send me if you have me on oh crap. My burner phone. I'll put it in the chat real quick. Send me that link. I just got another person saying they also saw the same thing. Send me that link. What is my burner phone? Holy crow. There it is. So yes. Okay, I just put my burner phone in the chat. You can also find me on social media, but Ashley, if you can send that to me, that would be amazing.
Yeah,
And
that was
then
said that if that happened, it could have only happened in that short time that Tara and I were not in the courtroom. And had it happened, the other reporters, I was sitting right next to Lauren
well,
Conlin and other reporters, they would have said something. In fact, hold on just a second. I'm going to mute. There's somebody calling that might be important. Just a minute. Carry on.
Carry on. She says, in the meantime, I'm going to text a family member to see if that is what happened. Hold on. Carrie, mute. Carrie, mute. I don't think she realized we could hear her. Hold on just a second. Well, so let me see if I can check that. I just sent the text I needed to send. Okay. It was stated on the link you shared last night. Jacqueline, what link? Was it the News Nation link? Because I think Carrie shared two. The news oh my gosh, News Nation, or I think was KSN the other one that she shared?
Yeah, and I don't have you.
Carrie, mute.
Am I muted?
Nope, you're not muted. God. Okay. So it was stated on the link shared last night. I want to know which link it was. I thought Carrie shared two. That would be very interesting. Because as far as I know, there was no outburst at all. But let's double check that. Let me see what else. The reporter was talking with Brian Inton. So the reporter that was Brian Inton located in New York, and the reporter was in Guyman. Because if I understand correctly, the person from News Nation that was in the courtroom was Brian Inton's producer. She has dark curly hair. That's the one that I understood. News Nation. Okay, we will double check that. Carrie said she checked that one twice. I want to be sure of what was said. And I saw it. I want to say I came across the link in the Facebook group. I hope not. But if it was, that is, and I'm double checking. So when I say double checking, I'm literally texting with Clint and find out if that is what happened. He hasn't responded yet. See if we can figure this out. Because that's not what we understood. Y'all stop with that. Who's doing the money thingy singing thing? Y'all quit. That ain't nice. I don't sing. I don't. I just make funny jokes, make interesting faces, and I carry on about my day being tall. That's it. Y'all gotta stop. Y'all are funny. Oh, okay. Lisa, I'll go check that. I will check that. Okay. Let's see. News Nation was the one that he hollered out. So I can tell you, as far as when we were in the room, no, he did not. Oh, okay. I do have a text. Okay. There may or may not have been something said. Okay, Carrie, you there?
I'm here.
Okay, hold on. I got a text. There may or may not have been something said. Shit. Oh my God. Y'all quit. Y'all quit. Y'all don't love me at all. Y'all quit with the support there. I don't. Oh my gosh.
Thank you so much,
No,
Ashley.
stop your shenanigans.
Okay,
Hold on a
so
second.
what does yours say? I was just told by Lauren Conlon was sitting next to me the whole time. She said she never heard that said yesterday.
Okay, so hold on just a second.
And she said to tell everybody hi.
Okay, so I just received a text from somebody because I text one person. I text Clint, and Clint's like, "Nope, that was not me." Another person, another individual who was in the courtroom with us, says that might have been me. Don't know. And I was like, so am I assuming you were not super loud then, or what? I'm not
Right.
going to say who it was or what's going on because that's not important. What's important is this is flippin' funny for starters because so somebody apparently was loud enough that News Nation was like, really? What did Connie do? What
She said, so pretty much something did happen, laughing. Yeah, I mean, if it was said, it was not loud, like nobody I know heard it. So News Nation must have picked up, but they might have been the only ones because that would have been talked about outside the courtroom.
Okay.
For sure that would have been.
Okay, so apparently, hold on.
Oh, you're fine, Kathy. Totally fine.
Okay, so it sounds like because we weren't in the courtroom at the time, this is something we missed. I don't know why we weren't in the courtroom at the time. That's not important. Okay, so oh, okay. Oh. We were in the courtroom, Carrie.
Oh, yeah?
Okay. It was probably what happened was during the massive responses, right? When things were getting intense. And during those massive responses, most of what you could hear were cries, emotional responses, those things where people are trying to hold back. And okay, so perfect. It's when things are getting super intense. Somebody has got a good set of ears at News Nation, apparently. And shame on them, by the way. And I hope you're listening, News Nation, because shame on you. This was not an outburst at all.
Right.
And I'm going to be that bitch that says this was not an outburst because we didn't
No
hear
one
it.
hollered anything. Nobody
Not while we
else
were there.
heard it. So.
Nope, not while we were there. And I didn't hear anything. I would believe wholeheartedly that when we were not in the room, we would have heard about this.
Definitely.
This was not an outburst. This was something that during the intense moments of testimony, family is upset, non-family is upset. Everybody is getting revved up, and something was said that it was an under the breath. And I do remember hearing this, but it was so quiet. It didn't, I was like, whatever. I totally agree with that. I get that. Apparently, it was something that News Nation heard and is calling an outburst because they heard it and they probably thought everybody else heard it, but shame on you because it wasn't. An outburst is where everybody in the room hears it and it's like a scene.
Like when everybody turns and looks at you kind of thing. So,
and this is
I
not
mean,
that.
That's
is not that.
drama. That sells. LaDonna just told me that that did not happen. So if it was
Yep.
said, it was very quiet, kind of
Yep.
probably a
I
mumble.
know exactly this person. I heard this person say this thing. I didn't think anything of it because it was quiet. I thought it was within
Mm-hmm.
the immediate little area because Carrie and I did not sit in the same spaces. But so during intense testimony with Paul Grice, things are getting very heavy and it's getting hard to hear. And there's no, in court, you don't get trigger warnings. You don't get brace yourselves. You don't get brace for impact type of communication. They just go. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and there was advisement to family, you're going to hear, so y'all quit that damn stuff with the singing.
We're almost there. We're almost
No,
there. Yeah,
no,
and
quit it.
Shonda said News Nation reported they weren't saying it loud, but we're calling the defendants' names, just not loudly.
So
Mm.
that one I would say is more accurate because that is what I heard. But again, it's one of those things you shrug off because it's not supposed to be loud. It's not supposed to be heard. So it did happen, just not at outburst level, not at I want attention, come see me level. It was, this is hard, this is intense. I need to let something out, and that's what got out.
Okay. All right. So that's kind of settled. So something was said. It was not a loud outburst. It was, mumbled. And apparently News Nation heard that. So, all right. And you guys, everybody that has just done super chats, thank you so much. I
Y'all are
appreciate
jerks.
you very much. Tara loves you too. Don't let her lie to you.
Y'all are jerks.
All right. So now I think we are moving on to today. I believe. Did we get through the comments? Oh gosh, looky there, Tara.
Hmm?
There's another one. If you can't sing, can you whistle or hum? You suck.
I just did it. That's awesome. Thank you, Kat. Kat loves me.
Thank you, Kat. Nanya said, thank you both for your hard work. Sing it out loud, Tara. Thank you so much for the $5 super
God,
chat.
I see what you're doing here. It's nice for you to throw my ass under the bus. I could just appreciate that to no end. My
Well, there'll be a
goodness.
day real soon on Tara's channel. She's going to be able to do the same stuff to me, and it'll be funny, and I'll go right along with it. Did we get 10 out of 10? A Christmas Carol would do, Tara. Oh, yeah, Tara, we're at 10. All right, what are you going to sing?
That's
Everybody's
jerky.
ready.
What a jerky thing to
See?
do to me.
CB said, sing solo. Solo, we don't hear you.
Yeah, correct. I love the hemorrhoid. Yes. This is why my
All right.
hemorrhoid cannot leave.
Come on, they got mics
That's
going.
not even funny. Y'all are kind of jerky, and we've got people listening that means something. God dang it.
I
I
know.
don't know.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We
We
wish
wish
you
you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. There, we're done.
You're so wonderful.
Somebody owes me a bottle of wine or 10. That was ridiculous.
All right. Thank you so much, you guys. That was kind of fun.
Oh
Thanks
my God.
for being a good
She
sport,
did not
Sarah.
tell me. She
really
did not
didn't.
tell me. I had no flipping clue what I was walking into. For those of you laughing your asses off right now, you're just as guilty as she is.
Hagatha, you could be a little bit kinder in the chat, or you could leave. Thank you very much,
Well,
though. All
okay.
right. Yeah,
Somebody's
record
not in the
deal
mood.
coming.
Okay. This is the palate cleanser.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? We just had 2 days of heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking testimony. Super,
Mhm.
super long days. Yesterday was over 16 hours. And so if we want to laugh for a few minutes, that's what we're going to do. Thank you. Okay.
Well, I'm going to add to that, just because we had issues in the chat yesterday. We never have issues in this chat ever. So yesterday was the first time one of our mods was attacked last night. I don't appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was attacked by another creator from another channel. And so if you are a creator from another channel, pay the same respect to us that we do you. Our mods are here. Our chat is here for the subject matter at hand. It doesn't matter who goes to whose chat. It doesn't matter if we're trying to lighten the mood. We're getting the job done. And if that doesn't work for you, if this is not the format, that's cool. There's other people who have the format you like. But if you're a creator in this chat, we expect the same respect that we give you.
100%. And I don't ever go in another creator's chat and say anything rude ever. So, all right. So let's move on my time. Let's move on to today. All right. So, let's see, where am I? Okay. So we start with Tad. Again, Tad has 4 attorneys, 3 females and 1 male. The attorney, the male attorney that was not there yesterday, he was there today. And let me tell you guys, he's kind of a little spitfire. He really is,
He's
as
active.
is Miskell. Is it Miskell? Is that how you pronounce her last name? The
Driscoll?
blonde?
Driscoll.
Is it Driscoll?
Joy Joy
Yeah, that one. Joy.
Driscoll.
We'll just call her
Yeah,
Joy.
that's
Okay, so
probably easier.
Joy is, what does she call herself?
I've heard it's the
Something
acquittal
queen.
queen.
Acquittal queen. She calls herself the acquittal queen. She even has a website. So she is a firecracker as well. So that's
Firecracker? Is that what we call that? All right, we can go with
she
firecracker.
was something, man.
She looks like
She was something.
what is that called when you something oh, for those of you when is there another term for backfire? Like it backfires continually over and over and over. It does the same thing over and over and over again, no matter what you do to it. I know there's a name for it. I can't think of what it is. It's been killing me all day long, but that is what she is. She did the same damn thing over and over and over again. It's like, move on. He's not
Yeah.
breaking. Move on. But there's a name for it. Y'all tell us what it is.
All right. Well, thank you, Hagatha. Appreciate that. Sometimes when things are typed in the chat, it can be taken, differently than the way it's meant. So if we took it differently, I truly apologize for that. Okay, so
Ricochet. Thank you, Francis. Ricocheted. She ricocheted multiple times today. That's a good one.
Yes, that is a good way to put it. The judge, Jet, starts that courtroom about 3 minutes early, both days in a row. So at 8:58 a.m., I wrote down 8:58 a.m., Cole waived his right to a preliminary hearing and his right to a speedy trial on his 7 counts. He also waived his 30 days for his hearing. So
his arraignment hearing, yeah.
Yes. So his next hearing is going to be May 7th, 2025 at 9 o'clock a.m.
25 or 24?
Well, May.
Yeah, oh my gosh, we are going to 24.
We've had some long days. So May of next year, May 7th at 9 a.m. Now, will anything actually start that day? Probably not.
Oh, Miskell, M-I-S-K.
Miskell, that's it.
Miskell. Boomerang is the other one to put it. Somebody's on it today.
So Paul, he was the first witness again today. He was cross-examined, and he was cross-examined by Joy Miskell, who is attorney for Tad Cullum, because Tad Cullum was the only one left in the courtroom. Everybody else has waived their preliminaries and everything. So Tad was the last one left in the courtroom. Let's see. She told Paul on April 23rd and September 17th of this year that he interviewed with OSBI. He says he has not been told what his sentence will be yet. The only thing that Paul has been told by the state of Oklahoma is that the death penalty is taken off the table in return for him testifying. Nothing else has been discussed. He said the plea was part of the reason he gave the September interview, as well as, in Paul's words, the right thing to do and closure for the family.
Mm-hmm.
In the September interview with OSBI, he did admit to stabbing Jilian, but he doesn't know if he killed her. He said he doesn't remember stabbing Veronica 30 times or Jilian 16 times, but in interviews, he said that he stabbed Jilian a few or maybe many times. The first 2 interviews, Paul said that he was very scared and he had not made up his mind on whether or not to tell the truth yet. His first 2 interviews, he admits that he lied to OSBI, but he is telling the truth on the stand now. Well, as you can
because
imagine, Tad
because
Colam's attorney ripped him apart for that.
well, because he said that the, it, the reason for telling the truth today versus the 2 interviews with the OSBI is because he had his right hand to God.
Yes, he said that too. Lots of God put into things that Paul would say. And I'll also say when he came into the courtroom, when he first sat down, his head was hung low. But Paul, I would think, would talk like I would have expected him maybe to talk soft and low. He doesn't. He speaks loudly, clearly. So that was a little different than what I kind of thought maybe. I thought he would just speak kind of low, and I don't know why, but I did. So the attorney says, because he said he lied in his first 2 interviews with OSBI, but now he's telling the truth on the stand. Joy Miskell, said, "Well, you perjured yourself," and he admits that he did.
Mm-hmm.
He said he
Well,
knows it.
in his testimonies to OSBI, but not on the stand.
Yeah, he didn't perjure himself on the stand, well, that we know of, but he did do it in his OSBI interviews.
Right.
And when you have an interview like that with OSBI, you state that you're telling them the truth. He said he knows that he did wrong and that he accepts punishment. He has to own up to what God says is right. So the attorney then brought up David Straits again, and David Straits was brought up a lot yesterday, and I did pull up something on David Straits that we'll look at real quick. David Straits, the attorney said, yesterday, Paul said that he had gone and seen David Straits twice in 2024, and one was in Oklahoma City. So Joy Miskell, one of the attorneys for Tad, says, well, looking at David Straits' list of events for this year, it shows that he was never in Oklahoma City this year. Paul says, well, maybe they were a year apart. Maybe it was, the year prior. I don't know. It's my mistake. I got my dates wrong. So Paul just was having a really hard time. Let me show you who this David Straight guy is real quick. And I didn't get a chance to read it all. I did read quite a bit of it. But this David Straight is who Paul and them, Paul, Cole, Tad, Tiffany, this is like who they're going to seminars away from home, going to seminars. That's how into this movement that they were. And so this article is from Yahoo News, and this is April of 23. It says sovereign citizens turn on each other over $200,000 fake license plates. Members of the far-right sovereign citizen movement are best known for their clashes with law enforcement. In traffic stops and courtrooms across the country, sovereign citizens have tried and failed to implement their bizarre, homemade legal theories when faced with the enforcement of legitimate laws. But now 2 prominent branches of the movement have turned on one another, feuding over a lucrative, imagine that, scheme, to sell fake license plates for a non-existent Republic of Texas. The feud pits the citizens of a fictitious entity called the Republic of Texas against David Straight, a so-called sovereign citizen guru whose seminars on his legal theories have raked in big money across the country, complicating the spat. Further, Straight's wife was arrested Monday on a raft of charges. Now, I do need to say I did look that up, and her charges were dropped because they did not have proper jurisdiction, I believe it was. So I need to say that. In the past, Straight and the so-called Texians have been natural allies. They both subscribe to the eclectic ideas of the sovereign citizen movement, which broadly encompasses groups of people who believe they exist in parallel legal universes and can, through elaborate legal filings and careful courtroom rhetoric, evade actual laws. So the group accused Straight of getting rich by selling fake license plates that sovereign citizens believed would help them avoid police. In total, the group claims Straight may have made nearly $200,000 off the bogus plates. So that gives you just kind of a quick rundown of who this David Straight guy is that has come up in the testimony multiple times. I'm not going to read that whole article, but I will put it in the chat. So if you guys want to click it, and then you can go back and read it later on. Oh gosh, I don't think it did it all in one. Well, anyway, it's Sovereign. Let's see. If you just look for that title, you'll find it. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Agreed. Consider is a part of why these people were getting together, why they were meeting.
Mm-hmm. Ergolo said, I tried to tell you people that far-right political beliefs influence these people, but no, my Facebook posts were deleted. I resent that. And I get that, Ergolo. I think because of Facebook, we just really try to keep political out of it, even when it's this. Now, if it's brought up in the courtroom, that's a different story. But politics in a Facebook group with 20,000 people is going to go south so fast. And
so the Facebook group, I thought I just hit the button. The Facebook group was about the Kansas moms. It's about Jilian and Veronica and their situation. Their situation is not political at all. Why the group got together, why the group met, why the group continued to meet. There was a political angle to it, along with a religious one. They were still a prayer group per Paul and Cora. They were learning about the American State National. So it was not solely political. The reason that we are covering this case, the reason that Veronica and Jilian are no longer with us is not political reasons at all. They're completely different. They're legal reasons, but they are not political. So I get what you're saying, Airglow, completely. And at the same time, it's not a political thing. These are not, while they may seem like political extremists, their political beliefs are not the head of this fashion. Tiffany's the head of all of it, based on what we heard over the last day and a half of testimony.
Ashley, I don't have Sophie blocked, so I'm not sure.
Wasn't she just in there under green? I thought she was in the chat under green.
I think so.
I thought I saw Sophie in the chat. I'll go ahead, Carrie. I'll go back in the chat and find her. And if something happened, because I've seen it happen before.
Maybe she was muted, accidentally or something. Okay, so I'm going to go on while Tara looks for that real quick. Okay, so Paul says, and I found this interesting. He says that he hasn't looked over all the discovery. He doesn't remember details. He hasn't watched his first interview with OSBI, but he did go over some of the notes, but some were lies. Some of the things that he said in those two interviews were lies, and he's now trying to make it right. He also said he doesn't remember looking at the transcript of the second interview with OSBI. And I don't know about you guys, but if I'm on, up for death penalty or at least a life sentence, I'm going to be wanting to look at what they've got on me. Why do you not even bother to look? That was strange to me. If it's strange to you guys.
I think it depends on your amount of. This is where the emotional,
maybe the understanding and the emotional maturity.
Well, I mean, you know what you did. I think it's in that mentality of I know what I did. I don't need them to tell me what I did. I know what I did. Not thinking about what did this person do, what did that person do. He's not looking to defend himself. He's looking to say, I don't care what they did. I know what I did. That's all I know. That's all I'm going to testify to. So I think that's where he was coming from and saying, no, I didn't look through discovery. Yes, I know I can, but I didn't, because most people go through, like Tad probably did go through discovery because he wants to get off.
Tad did. Yeah.
So I'm sure he did, but Paul was very vehement today. He challenged that attorney today multiple times.
Oh my gosh, he did. And we're going to get there, but yeah, Paul.
So wait for it. We're not there yet.
Yeah. He wasn't afraid to speak up and out, even out of turn.
I didn't even question her. That was what was hilarious. We'll get there.
Yeah. So Paul said that he met with the DA one time last week. So he hadn't met with the DA until last week, I guess, but that's what he said. Plus his 2 OSBI interviews. He also said his attorneys were not present for that meeting with the DA last week, and that kind of bothered me too. I'm not sure why he would have spoke with the DA without his attorneys present, or why his attorneys would have even allowed something like that. But that's what he said.
They weren't exactly coming to his defense today,
They
were
weren't. No, they really
So
weren't.
there's something going on.
They really weren't. And as far as like the legal process, that does bother me because that's why they are public defenders, but that's what their job is to represent him. So if he's meeting with the DA without an attorney, that is bothersome to me. Moving on, he said he lied at first. Then when confronted with DNA evidence, he confessed. All right, so this is what Tara and I have been telling you guys from the beginning. Remember when we said, Tara, I'll let you tell the story, that Paul was not arrested the first time.
Correct. So Paul was not arrested. He was questioned. Everybody thought he was arrested. He was questioned. During that questioning, and Carrie's already covered this in the testimony. During that first questioning session in April, OSBI questions, he tells some truths, he tells some lies. And they basically say, okay, and he did confess. At that point in time, he had confessed to killing Veronica. And OSBI says, all right, cool, fine. I don't have a warrant for you. But when I get a warrant, I'm coming after you. Now, I don't know if that's because they didn't have the evidence. They can't just take his story. I don't know what it is. I don't know the processes. That's something I will look into and come back to everybody on. But OSBI says, we're going to get a warrant. We're going to come back to you. And Paul says, under testimony, he's under oath. He says, okay, once you have a warrant, I'll turn myself in. I'll meet you at Four Corners. So then he's arrested later in April because they get the warrant. And he surrenders at Four Corners. And that's where we had already provided the picture of his truck at Four Corners, which we later incidentally find out that truck is part of the whole set of activities that occurred on March 30th in regards to Veronica and Jilian.
Right. And Eric, so Cora is getting 40 years. Paul
30. She's getting 30.
It's 30 plus 10. She has 10 years on her last charge sentenced to the Department of Corrections. So it's 40 total. 40 total.
I'm going back to my notes. You're probably right.
I am.
You do the legal stuff better than I do.
Yep. It is 40 total. So, yeah. And then Paul, we don't know. The only thing we know about Paul is the death penalty is off the table. He said they have not discussed anything else regarding his plea deal with him. Grice's family, I don't think so.
What's the comment?
Is Grice's family standing by him? Do we know?
What I can say to that, I'm in communication with nearly all the family members. They are not showing up to court hearings.
Right.
They are in the background supportive. I will say that. Who it is, where they're at, what their connection is, I'm not going into that, but he has support. I will also say that support from his perspective is not helpful. In his mind, he's looking to take responsibility for his actions. Nobody's been sentenced yet.
Right. Nobody has been sentenced yet.
That's one of those, but wait, there's more things. So.
Right. For sure. All right. So, yeah. So he on the stand today, he said he lied at first when OSBI confronted him. He lied. And then he was confronted with DNA evidence. And so he confessed, but they let him walk because they didn't have a warrant yet. He turned himself in once they had the warrant for him.
Yes.
So that's the reason why he was able to walk. And I know that's been a question for Tara and I. It's been a question for the majority of you. Why did they just let him go? Well, they didn't have enough on him, I guess, and he lied. So, he said he had no involvement. So they had to.
I think I'll get the
that warrant
process
for that
behind
DNA
that.
Yeah, the warrant, I tell you the way it worked, the warrant for the DNA had not come back yet, or they had
That may
not
be,
got
yeah.
it yet, and so that's what they were waiting on.
Well, and that solidifies the warrant, right? Like they don't
Mhm.
need him, they need the evidence to solidify the warrant. So I will figure that out for certain. But for a long time, we were under the impression that, he called OSBI, he made the connection, he made the deal of let me go make sure my family affairs are settled, and I will surrender to you on this date at Four Corners. And that's what happened. And it turns out that was a little bit the information we got was a little bit different than what he testified to, providing his testimony is solid. Then the process for the warrant is necessary to understand Paul's situation. So I'll get
Mhm.
that information I'll
Right.
get that within the next day or two.
Colby said, "I want an interview with Paul's wife. Did she have any idea?" We're gonna get to that. I'd love
Coming
to
up.
have that interview as well. I'd love to have an interview with Paul, to be honest. All right. So, Miss Gold, Tad's attorney, I'm not sure why this was brought up, but I wrote it down anyway. She said, so in your second interview with OSBI, did they promise, or were you promised a cheeseburger by Jason Otts? And he said he was, but he declined it. I don't know why that was brought up.
I can tell you from gossip why that will gossip. I can tell you why that was brought up. There's been some discussion, rhetoric, water cooler happenings at
Mhm.
state of when legal teams would meet with defendants, it was going out for meals.
Mhm.
And so each legal team had an issue with who was seeing who at what point in time, especially with and without attorneys. That was some of the jargon I got today. I don't know if it's accurate, but that was what was stated today. So there's been some
Wow.
issues with who's talking to who, when, and over what, and
Mhm.
how, and why. So it's like the drama doesn't stop, right? Like the drama carries over to the legal system, is what it sounded like to me.
Right. So here's a big lie that Paul says he told. He said he lied more than he can remember in his first interview. He had said that Tad gave him a knife, but it was his. So he's told OSBI in his very first interview that the knife he had, Tad had given to him, but in reality, it was actually Paul's knife. He said he's not fully pledged as a state nationalist. He said, and this is word for word, I wouldn't have killed them if I hadn't been brainwashed by evil people.
Hmm.
And he looked angry when he said it. And at one point, he looked right at Tad, right at Tad. And the feeling I got from Paul was he was a little angry. Like maybe he really does believe that he was brainwashed, that he's like the fall guy. And I'm just kind of guessing. Obviously, I don't know what Paul thinks, but um, he was upset. That was my takeaway. He was upset about
At
it,
the very least.
like an angry kind of way. Yeah, because I mean, think about that. I wouldn't have killed them if I hadn't been brainwashed by evil people. So, and then after that, Paul asks the attorney, like he asked the attorney a question, and he said, "May I ask, have you ever been to prison?"
So I'm gonna disagree with you on that a little bit because she's talking about punishment, owning up, manning up. You did this, you did that, and
Mhm.
he's like, "Have you been to?" Because you got the death penalty. There's no death penalty. You're not going to suffer that much. And he's like, "Have you been to prison?" And she's just like, "Well, no, I'm a law-abiding citizen." He's like, "Well, I think prison is pretty much punishment, quite a bit enough. Like it's bad
Mhm.
because he's been
Yeah.
there, right? He's been to a form of prison, not quite the prison he's going to find out." Um, but
Right.
he's trying to make a point to her, and he's arguing with her, and she's like,
Yeah, he was.
"Uh, I'm law abiding." And so the judge finally is like, "You need to answer the questions, Paul Grice,
Mhm.
not offer the questions." So the judge had to step in because that lawyer of Tad's, in my opinion, and Carrie may differ with me on this, that lawyer of Tad's her name Driscoll, Liskel,
Yeah.
whatever her name is.
Joy.
Joy, that's easier. She lost control. She got turned around unexpectedly and lost control as a defense attorney, in my opinion, for that split second. And it
See, and I
hurt.
think she's a bulldog. So
But
yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
she's a bulldog, but in that moment, Paul got the better of her.
yeah, he
He
kind of
caught her off
did.
guard. He caught
It
her
was
off guard.
shocking to see a defendant like do that in a courtroom, though.
Well,
I mean, we all know you don't do that, and
he
here,
wasn't trying to be
Paul.
funny. He's just like, "Have you
No,
been there? Do you know what? Like, do you have any idea on this side?" Like, he went logical on her
yeah,
completely.
he was
Like,
irritated,
yeah, he's like, "Screw you in your questioning. I've already said what I said. Move
right?
on." And
Yeah,
quite honestly, the rest of the courtroom might have been on Paul's side on that one. Like, yes,
yeah,
move
we
on.
kind of were, yeah.
Do not like leave it alone. But
Yeah, I
truly,
agree. Can somebody drop Yep's channel and Ashley's channel? Can you guys drop the mod
yes,
links for their channels in the chat for me, please?
please do.
Okay. So then, okay, this next one, Tara, I didn't get to write everything. I think I was in such shock over the words when I was writing them. I don't think I
Where are
got it
we?
all.
Hold on, let me get to my
So
notes.
we are at Paul on in one of his OSBI interviews. He says
Okay.
Veronica smelled
Smell the
plum
evil.
fucking evil
Yep.
he smelled plum fucking evil coming out of Veronica worse than a dead cow. He says he also heard Tad say the same thing.
Yes. Yep. Yes.
Was
You
that
got that.
the full? Okay.
Yeah, she was chemically rotten when
That
she
was, yeah.
died. He could see it rising from her as she died. In his first interview, that is what he offered them. Yes.
hmm Narissa asked, "Has Paul done time before this?" No. No,
No.
he got in trouble in high school, and I think that's it.
Well, the only trouble he had in high school was some sort of hunting thing.
Right.
That
Yeah.
was it. That was it.
Dog Mom said, "Well, really, why wouldn't they? I mean, Paul, he knows he's going to prison for the rest of his life, so he's probably going to do more before this trial's over and say more." I agree.
But
After
he's got
seeing
the deal.
his personality today, yeah, I could see that.
He's got nothing to lose. He's not trying to
Right.
win or gain anything. He was very clear. He was just trying to put the truth out there where he hadn't put it out there before.
hmm
But
Another thing that he said in that first interview was that he does not, I don't have his exact words, but that he doesn't regret it and that he sleeps like a baby at night.
yes, he did say that, but he said that was a lie because he hasn't slept good since. He hasn't slept good since
Right.
everything
He
got
said he
going.
hasn't since, but that was
So
in his
yes, yeah, he put that in there, and so there was also a lie about killing Jilian Kelley when he was questioned about that. That lie was added in there, which is important in his testimony because this is again, they went back and forth on the testimony. They did not go in order at all.
right. Yeah, it kind of goes all over the place and I just want to be like that's not our fault because it's not
Yeah,
that it was kind of all over the place. And yeah, so we're just going in order of how it went in the courtroom.
correct.
Um all right, so then she starts to talk about the Veronica's children's abuse. And Paul says he was told of it, but he didn't have any proof of it. He still doesn't. She tells him that he needs to read the evidence.
The discovery.
The discovery. Yeah. The evidence. Yeah. She says he needs to read the evidence. The lawyer then says Tiffany and Tad had been litigating custody to protect the children. They took charges to the DA. The DA being Buddy Leach, who is also the DA on this case.
Yep.
Leach declined to press charges. She says the system failed the children. Paul says he thought he did what he did to protect the kids. He said, and these were his exact words, "It's horrific for those children, but doesn't make what we did right."
Mm-hmm. Yes.
She asked if he's on any kind of meds or anything. He said he's on no meds, But the first interview that he did with OSBI, he was possibly still drunk and that he drank a lot at that time. So still drunk, I'm assuming maybe
Mhm.
from night before or something. And we had told you guys, like in the beginning and on all along, really, we had a lot of sources saying that these get-togethers did involve quite a bit of alcohol, and many of these defendants had become very heavy drinkers. And one of those was Tad, right? Tad and Tiffany had become pretty heavy drinkers.
They'd been known to be heavy drinkers along with
Mm-hmm.
Cole.
Yeah.
That's what they were known for, which is something that was mentioned during Cora's Cross that we missed. It's in notes that I'm receiving. One of the reasons why Cole was not like included is they needed him to be lookout, but not aware of what was actually going on because he drinks heavy, and when he drinks heavy, he talks a lot.
Right. Narissa said, agreed. He knows he won't see the light of day, but he has nightmares of that day. I would think they all do. And that is true. So he has said he has nightmares. Francis said those kids were loved by their mom. I truly do believe that. And Ashley, thank you so much for the super chat. And she said, thank you for the coverage and hosting us. Thank you. Tara, can you take over for just a second? I got to plug my laptop in. Sorry.
You mean with that charger that you
It's
almost
like
forgot
the
today?
lamest excuse that I have. Yeah,
With
the
that
charger I almost forgot. So give me just 1 second.
Folks, she needs me, just so we're all clear. She needs me. She might make me sing inadvertently, but she needs me. Okay, so we have Paul was asked if he was on any meds at the time of his testimony. He said no, and he was asked if there was any meds at the time that he was first interviewed. He said he might have been still drunk, but nothing at the second interview. He was sober today. He was asked about the conversations with Tiffany in 2024. He said there was 2 of them, February and May, which we've covered those, and they were talking about the kids. Tiffany was leading the conversation about the kids and the abuse that they were experiencing in great detail. There was a specific comment made that Tad was not a part of those conversations. And so it was asked of Paul if he believed it was true that I'm trying to word this because notes are hard to read. So Paul was asked if he believed that Tad and Tiffany believed that Veronica was allowing her kids to be abused. And he said that it was his belief, yes, Veronica was allowing the abuse. And that was what was spawning all these shenanigans between the 5 of these individuals. And so then Tiffany had asked if Paul would kill Veronica. Again, the first time he was asked, he would think about it. And he was asked about, okay, so this is during Cross, right? He was asked, so you thought about it, like how long did you take to think about it? What made you want to do it? What made you sway your judgment? So the second time that Tiffany had asked Paul about killing Veronica, Paul admitted that it was from the bitterness in his heart, the hate in his heart. It just grew between the first ask and the second ask. And he justified his decision by Tiffany's stories about the kids. He was asked if he'd been hypnotized by Tad's defense, and he said, well, that depends on what you define as hypnotized. If it's influenced and brainwashed, yes. If it's believing nonsense of hate to fix things like this, then yes. So he's falling in line with the brainwashing, with the manipulation, and with the tactics that Tiffany had been using per his testimony up to this point. So they asked him how old he was, and he said he's 32. They asked him if he thought, are you a rational person? Are you a common sense person? Yes. They asked, I say they, and I do mean Tad's attorney. Tad's attorney had asked, were you forced to kill anybody? And Paul said no. He made the decision based on the information that he had had. And so there was a comment made about, Paul was talking about that Tiffany had said, if these were your kids and your kids were going through this abuse, your kids were going through these things I explained to you, what would you do? How would you respond? And that, again, Paul reiterated, I would kill somebody who did this kind of thing to my children. So at that point in time is when, during cross with Tad's attorney, that Paul said he agreed to end Veronica Butler's life. And then there was some discussion between Tad and Paul. At some point in time, it's brought up again during cross when Paul knew that Jilian Kelley would be there. And he stated that he knew there would be a supervisor. He didn't know the name until after. So he understood that there would be a second person there. The name was not revealed to him, so he was not sure. So he understood his duties, his responsibilities in terms of Veronica. He was not comfortable with the second person being taken out. He knew it had to happen because she's a witness. Oh, there she is.
Oh yeah, I've been here. You're good. You were doing a good job. Yeah, he said he didn't like the thought of it.
Correct.
He didn't know Jillian's name until afterwards, and
Yes.
that's really sad too. But he said that he didn't like the thought of it, but that Tiffany said she's a witness, and that she had to go. And he said that was his mentality at the time.
He
And
agreed with it. Yeah.
yeah, and I have it in my notes aside, attorney, aggressive, smartass.
Yeah,
So
she
that's
was.
how she was acting at that time that he is saying these things.
Agreed.
She was really going after him. And like I said, nobody from the state did any kind of interruptions. There was no attorney there for
Nothing.
Paul to know nothing. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen, but that's how it went. At one time, he said he told Tiffany that it wasn't a great idea. Well, no shit, Sherlock, right?
Yeah, really. Well, and
Um,
then oh yeah, that's my notes align with yours. Yeah, he said it was not a good idea. But he only said it once.
right.
And
Yeah,
everything
he
quieted
said.
down for a few days.
Mm-hmm.
Once he said that to everybody, it quieted down for a few days, and then it started back again.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Thank you.
What are
Thank
we
you.
doing? What are we doing? We're not
She
making me sing.
said, "Congratulations on 1,000 in chat. You're doing these
Oh,
women such
wow.
a service by your classy coverage and keeping their story alive." That's
Thank you,
so sweet.
Ashley.
That means an awful lot to us. It truly does.
That really does. Wow, there's 1,000 in the chat?
Nairi
Holy
said, "Do they all have court-appointed attorneys?" No, Taz are hired attorneys.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the others. I'm not sure about Tiffany. I can't remember. Now, Paul's is court appointed. Cora's is court appointed. Do you remember about Cole? I
Oh,
want to say Cole got a private one because I remember thinking, God, I bet Cora's mad about that. But it could have been something else Cora was mad at
I
Cole
can't
about.
remember. I know it's not. I can't remember.
But we can tell you that Tad's attorney is the only one that is going to trial right now. He does have private attorneys, and
Well,
they are
officially,
right.
certainly officially.
Yeah,
So we have to be clear. I presume myself that Cole and Tiffany have made deals, but that's not out there for public use yet. But I think they made deals. I think Tad's the only one going to official trial at this point.
right. And Maxine, that is correct. Thank you. All right. So Paul told OSBI that the tasers were his idea, but now he says he doesn't remember that.
Well, there was one thing in between where Paul said this is not a good idea. That quieted down for a few days. It came back around when they go before the taser idea being Tiffany's, but uh, told it was Paul's idea. At one point in time, they were at the crime scene, and Paul says he remembers Tad saying, "This is nuts." Now, he doesn't recall being there the morning before, but he does recall at some point in time Tad Cullum saying, "This is nuts."
Right. And Tina, no problem. No problem at all.
What did Tina do?
She just said my apologies.
What she?
I think it might have been about kids. It's okay though.
Oh,
Not everybody knows. Not everybody's been here before, so
you
that's
must be new.
okay.
Welcome. That's
Yeah.
good. You
Thank
now
you
you
for
know.
being here.
It's all good.
So then he goes on to say that Tad had a claw hammer. Well, I was trying to look ahead of my notes to see if this is where it gets heavy.
Well, they go back
Okay,
into who's
so
armed which way, and so Paul's got the pistol, the stun gun, the knife, but he was given another stun gun because he left his at home. He's got the hammer, and that he wasn't sure about Tad having a knife, but he had the claw hammer because he saw him with it.
right, he said Tad had the claw hammer. Paul didn't see him do anything, and that includes stabbing Jilian. So
Mhm.
Paul says he did not see Tad stab Jilian. Um, he also did not see him do anything, is what he said on the stand. He said he kept going, meaning he kept stabbing, because his exact words, it was late. It was too late to stop in the situation we were in.
Yeah.
He said he saw Tad grab, and see earlier he said he didn't see Tad do anything, but he said he saw Tad grab Jilian beside the trailer. In the original interview with OSBI, though, he said he didn't see Tad or Tiffany do anything. And at that point, the courtroom was very, very quiet. Like, I don't know if Tara remembered or if you even notated it, but it felt heavy. It was very quiet to me at that time.
Mhm.
The lawyer tells Paul, "You're trying to save your own skin." And Paul tells the attorney, Joy, "My skin is not worth saving."
Yep. Truth is truth.
Lots of quotes from from Paul. I'm telling you, lots of them.
No, he's easy to quote because
Yes, he is.
he's not taking shit from anybody. So
Hmm.
he's in, at least not now. He apparently did before.
Travel and Teresa, I think we'll get to that at the very end. Once we'll kind of give you our gut feelings on it once we get through this.
Yeah, we'll give you
And
some final thoughts.
and yes, welcome, Tina. Um, so let's see. He said my skin's not worth saving. If I could take it all back, I would. You bet. He then says that Jilian is on her back with her head toward the left side of the trailer, inside of the trailer. He thinks he remembers a few drops of blood by her hair.
Hmm. So we're going to come back into some of this heavy
Yes.
situation stuff. So if
So
you
it
don't
is
like
going
this
to
kind of
be
thing,
heavy.
folks,
Mm-hmm.
excuse yourself now because it's going to get heavy.
Yes. So the lawyer tells Paul, "You killed Jilian Kelley. You better own it." He said that he saw that Jilian had urinated, her eyes fluttering, and he couldn't tell if she was alive or not. During this time, Tad is like handing a ton of little post-it notes to his attorney too. I don't know. I probably saw him hand maybe 8 or 9, and he was actually writing with his handcuffs and passing them over to her. So he said that he couldn't tell if she was alive or not. Again, Tad's attorney said, "You stabbed her 16 times with your knife." Paul's DNA is only on one knife, and he agrees with that.
Well, and he also agreed that, yes, he stabbed her, but
Mm-hmm.
he's not sure he's the
He
one
doesn't
that
know how many
killed
times.
her. He doesn't know how many
Right.
times, and he's not sure whether of her situation before
Mm-hmm.
him stabbing her and after him stabbing her. He is not sure. He said he would own it if he knew, but he does not
Yeah.
know for certain.
Maxine, yeah, 32 years old and just ruined his life and his family. And I think that's maybe where I'm at because I have kids his age, and I just think about it. Maybe that's why. I've talked to Tara about it a lot, but I think it's probably because I have kids that age, and I just breaks my heart to see a young person destroy not only their life but the lives of like what 20, 30, 40 other people. I
Oh,
mean,
he identified
so
that.
many,
He
so many
identified that
lives, and
today.
he did. He really did. Um, so he said he has hate in his heart for evil doing to the children, and he had not worked through it. Now, what I think that Paul was really talking about was his own abuse growing up. I think he hasn't worked through that, and he has hate in his heart for people that do evil things to children. When that's all fine and dandy, we all have that, and that's
Mhm.
great. But we also don't murder people. um, he said he was in a horrible situation and he had choices to make, and that's the choice he made.
And he owns it.
He owns
I
it.
know. I know it sounds like I'm defending him, right? I get that. At the same time, these are things he said in court. I own
Mhm.
it. I made the decision. I own it. I did this. I own it. I'm telling the truth. I'm telling everything I know I did. And even when the defense attorney for Tad was like, here's the medical examiner's report. Here's what it says. This is what you did. He's like, that doesn't surprise me. I just don't
Mhm.
happen to remember it. That
Right.
part, but I did do that. So he was trying to own his actual knowledge. Everything he knows that he did, he tried to own it. That doesn't justify shit
Right.
at all.
Yeah, he said
Explains, maybe, not justify.
he said he doesn't know if she was dead or not.
Yep.
He doesn't remember stabbing her that many times, as many times as she was, and the attorney said. Patrick said, so him stabbing her in the trailer was post-mortem, then we're going to get there.
Hold on.
Yep, we're going to get there. Lynn Stevens said, it's great to see you, Lynn. And
Oh,
she said, this
hello,
is really
Lynn.
heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking, but we're happy to see you. It's been a while. I haven't seen your name in a while.
Yes. And Patriot Patriot said, thank you for explaining what you saw in court, Tara.
Oh, you're welcome.
So, again, I made a side note in my notes that says not a single interruption from the DA or his attorney. But Paul goes on to say that he checked Jillian's
Hold on, let me
pulse.
stop you right there real
Go ahead.
quick. Something came up. Ashley, thank you at Shenanigans. Oh, where'd it go? I doubt the families feel any better knowing he owns it. Maybe I'm wrong. I want to point this out just because I had a couple of moments with a couple different family members. Actually, yes. Him owning it, there were some family members that were watching this whole thing go down. They watched him. They struggled with him. They won't admit it to other family members. They're never going to admit it. But they understand forgiveness in these situations now. And that was what they were sharing with me, is that Paul's situation, as he testified, the way he represented himself, what he said and how he said it, they said it helped. They don't like it. It's not okay. It doesn't justify it. Doesn't really even explain it. But it helps them to feel like they can forgive to a certain degree. So I just want to put that out there because that happened to be something that was said to me just a couple of times today, which I wasn't expecting to hear this early on, but Paul instigated that actually. I'm done. You can keep going.
You're done? Okay.
No,
No, I turn my thing back on and then I have to find where I was in my notes again, so it's fine. Yeah, so he said he checked the pulse on the right side of Jillian's
Yep.
throat and on the wrist of Jillian.
Mm-hmm.
He cut his right hand. Okay? He cut his right hand. He almost severed his finger off.
Yes.
But he said he checked the pulse on the right side of her throat and on the wrist of Jillian. He says he checked the pulse with both hands because the attorney said, wait a minute, you are right-handed and you checked her pulse while you have a severed finger, basically. And he then says, well, I checked her pulse with both hands.
Yep. But he's having a panic attack.
Yeah. He said
he's
between
got
panic attacks and the bumpy road, he just couldn't tell if she was alive or not.
He felt crazy. He felt high adrenaline. He felt shaky. His pulse was out of control. He wasn't sure he can feel. Very bumpy road. He wasn't sure if Jillian's body was responding to the road or her biological reactions. He was not sure. To which the Tad's defense was like, oh, well, people are twitching. That means they're alive. He's like, well, animals twitch after they've passed.
Yes,
so
he did
people
say
can't
that.
do. And he said it so matter of factly, like, you clearly don't hunt. Like, he was very, like, I'm
and
not
I could
trying to be a jerk
understand
with
what he was saying too.
Oh, I can too.
understood that, yeah.
Well, and this sounds crazy and it's off subject, but I'm a part of a Facebook group that shows they provide you access to extremely inappropriate links and videos to true crime things, literal true crime things. And there was one that happened to have a very highly damaged body, is the way I will put it. And you would look at this individual and you would think there is no way that any part of that body in the two pieces that it was in would be moving, but the top half was moving like it knew what it was doing.
Right.
And so it seems very cut and dry, black and white. It's not. It's absolutely not. The body is a very unusual character. It will do things you would not imagine. And so, again, this is not to defend Paul,
Right.
but you have to take everything into consideration at the same time.
Yes. And Katie asked, were these individuals completely sober during this ordeal in March? Just curious. We don't
Ooh.
think so. We think there was a lot of alcohol. Paul said his first interview with OSBI, he was possibly still drunk, and he said he drank a lot at that time.
Well,
And we have heard from others that the others were drinking very heavily at the
yeah,
time.
but that wasn't asked. That wasn't asked in any kind of the
No,
questions.
it
That was not
wasn't.
asked if anybody had been drinking that day. That was never asked. So we don't know. We have no,
Mhm.
they could have been. They could have been to calm Nerner. We have no clue. It was never asked. And I don't know that any blood tests or anything like that were taken. That, I mean, certainly not the day of, but that's a very good observation.
Mhm. Beverly said if Paul had not come forward with the law, found the bodies and all. Yes, I
Yes.
believe so.
Wait, we're getting
Because
there.
yeah, CW, the minor. So yeah, I believe they would have. All right. So then the lawyer asked him about hunting, and she said ask him if he gets a thrill from killing because he hunts, and he said he doesn't. Then he said that he has seen photos of Jilian after the deaths, but not of Veronica.
Yeah.
He said his attorney didn't offer the pictures of Veronica, and he didn't ask for the pictures of Veronica. He said that Tad told him within a few days that Tad tried to break Jillian's neck, but Paul never told OSBI that. So this is like, is that another Paul story kind of thing? Because he didn't tell OSBI this.
But
He's
he was
saying it later on, you know.
he was clear that everything he was talking today was the first time he was saying it. Nobody ever heard what he was
Yeah,
saying today.
yeah,
And
because
I'll verify that through OSBI. I'll go back and ask them about that.
yeah, the next thing he says in his exact words were, "There's a big mess I've created with telling lies." Oh, with my lies. There's a big mess I've created with my lies. All right. Then the attorney says that the medical examiner report reflects all injuries as a result of Paul's knife. Paul says he wouldn't be surprised. Then he says
Hey,
that,
Carrie, I
yeah.
just got something. Give me
Hmm.
I'm going to step out for just a couple of seconds. I'm going to go mute because I
Sure.
just got something. So give me a couple seconds. Keep going.
Sure. All right. And then after he says that he wouldn't be surprised if all the injuries were the result of his knife, he said Tiffany Adams walked a circle around Veronica while Paul was killing her, but he never told law enforcement that either. It's just crazy, horrific. Paul says it all happened in about a 20-minute time frame. The attorney says he went on a homicidal rage. He says it haunts him every night. Paul was the only one that saw Tad drive the skid steer. Let me see. I was going to show you guys. Okay, so real quick, let's go to Jillian's autopsy because Tad's attorney, you guys can see where this is going. Somebody's already said it in the chat. Tad's attorney is absolutely going to try to put all of this on Paul and get Tad off on those murder charges. I truly believe that is their strategy now. So, Joy Miskell says that the medical examiner, the autopsy report reflects all injuries as a result of Paul's knife. All right, so let's take a look real quick. And this is the first time that we're showing this. You're not going to be able to see it real big on the screen, unfortunately. Give me just a minute and I will pull that up. Yeah, 20 minutes is a long time, with the traffic, but I've sat there for 20 minutes and there wasn't hardly any traffic that drove by. So, I just don't know. I don't know. Jilian, here we go. All right. So on the page that is on the screen, you may have to make your screens larger. This is what the findings are from Jillian's autopsy report. The means are assault with knife. And right now, you guys, I can't see the chat, so just so you know. All right, so the findings are, number one, a multiple sharp force trauma with a total of 16 sharp force injuries as follows. A, sharp force injuries to the head and neck. There's a cluster of 9 sharp force injuries. 7 of those are stab wounds and 2 are incised wounds to the posterior head and the posterior neck, with defects to the back of the scalp, the neck skin, soft tissues, muscles, tongue base, and so on. 1 stab wound to the right upper lateral cheek, 1 incised wound to the left temple, 1 incised wound to the left lateral jaw, sharp force injuries to the left shoulder. 1 is a superficial incised wound to the top of the left shoulder, and the other is a stab wound to the posterior left shoulder. And then C, sharp force injury to the hands, defensive type incised wound to the left index finger, and a defensive type incised wound to the base of the right thumb. She also had possible stun gun marks to the back of the neck and posterior left shoulder. So the cause of death for Jilian, multiple sharp force trauma. Now, let's go on here because you've heard about the breaking of the neck and that maybe Tad did that. And then Paul thinks that she might have not been deceased. So then Paul goes into this stabbing frenzy, right? Well, this is what the medical examiner says about that. In my opinion, based on the circumstances surrounding death and the findings at autopsy, Jilian Kelley died as a result of multiple sharp force trauma, consisting of 9 stab wounds and 7 incised wounds for a total of 16 sharp force injuries. 2 of those wounds were consistent with Mrs. Kelley having attempted to defend herself, with wounds to her left index finger and her right thumb. Although possible stun gun marks were observed on the back of her neck and her left shoulder, the decomposed state made it very difficult for them to determine if those were truly the stun gun marks. After having been fatally attacked, Jilian Kelley was then deliberately concealed inside a sealed freezer along with the body of Veronica Butler. The freezer was then buried 4.5 to 8 feet below ground and covered with a large concrete slab. Underneath the freezer were additionally buried clothing, a stun gun, a roll of tape, and a knife, all of which were collected on scene. Given the nature of Mrs. Kelley's injuries, and I think this is probably really important, including a devastating upper cervical spinal cord injury, it is my opinion that her death was very rapid, as she would have likely not only lost her ability to move her body below her head, but also her ability to breathe on her own. It is my opinion, therefore, that she was most likely deceased before she was placed inside the freezer. You're back.
I am back, and I have an update.
Go for it.
And so I'm gonna reroute this train from the burial site to Cole did take a plea deal.
Okay.
He's getting 30 years.
30 years for Cole. Wow.
So as it looks like, and I need to go back and confirm.
Well, that doesn't surprise me, though.
It
Doesn't
looks
surprise me.
like he and Cora, and it looks like Cora and Cole both are getting 30.
Cora's
we
getting 40.
So we have to go back and look because
I
that's
promise.
still
I promise,
it's
because that's been a big contention and a source of rumors
yes.
and stuff. It is 40 years for Cora
So
on my life.
but Cole is getting
Cole
30.
is 30. Okay.
30 years. He got a life sentence all but 30. Is what, let me go back and take a closer look real quick. And it says waive, and it's a court document that I'm reading this from. Waive to the maximum of life suspended all but 30 years. So Cole Twombly, who was not there at the murder site, he was there at the burial, is getting 30 years.
Yep. Well, you heard it here first.
So it's
I don't think I'm surprised at all. They're just with the testimony that we heard, there just wasn't. I don't know how to say it right, but there just wasn't a whole lot against Cole to say that he participated near as much as these others did, if that makes sense.
It's and just so everybody's clear, I'm being told I'm getting I'm getting updates literally as we're doing this live right now. The documents are already on OSCN. So if you're a fan of that, you can go find it that way. So these documents are out there. This is not like it's a secret. They're out there.
Right. Yeah.
They're out there. They're in handwriting. Yes. So I'm hearing that course 30, 10 consecutive, the 30 concurrent. I need to go back and confirm that because we need it in writing, right? That's what makes a difference. But it's either way. Cora is going to prison for an extended amount of time. Cole is going to prison for extended amount of time. Paul is going to prison for an extended amount of time. These people are not going to walk out of their jail cells that they have been accustomed to these last several months of this year. They are all going to prison. So at this point in time, as long as they're not getting out within the near future, let's start with that. We can hammer out the details later.
Right. Yeah.
But that was the update I just literally got. I just saw the paperwork on it. It is legit. He's going to jail for 30 years.
All right.
No, but just to be clear, Oklahoma has, what is that called, Carrie? It sounds weird to me, so I don't like to remember it. An 85% pool? Is that what it's called?
Oh, I've heard different things on that, so I want to look it up before we really say a whole lot. But I've heard that in Oklahoma, if it is a like a crime like this, like horrific crime against somebody else like this, I can't remember the exact word, that Oklahoma does not hand out those you did good, we'll let you out early very often. So I'm not positive. I just want to look into that more before we talk about it very much.
Yeah, I agreed. But it's an 85% something, so it's definitely something to look into because it applies here. That's the important thing. It applies here.
But even so, they're going to be there.
Yep.
For the, I mean, they're not young pups, so.
Yeah,
and so as far as trials for Cora and Cole, or are they just sentenced, boom, done? They will just be sentenced, boom, done, because they've already done their plea deals, right?
Yep. Paul, Cora, and Cole have all pled out. They're done. Yep. So if you follow the pattern, that means Tiffany took a deal, and likely it's life. I bet. I would be willing to bet she didn't walk away. I don't think she walked away from yesterday morning unscathed. I'm willing to bet she got life.
Yeah. Well, she should get more than that, but I think Paul should have too. If he's really the one that did both, he should.
Okay, we have something to go on. So 85% pool is 85% of time served on violent crimes. So that gives us a direction to go in, Carrie.
Okay, violent crimes. That's the word I was looking for.
But it has to be signed off on first.
Right. Yep. And my understanding is Oklahoma doesn't like to do that on violent crimes very much, but I don't know. But, I'm just going to say it. This kind of falls in line with Buddy Leach wanting to do plea deals. So
I mean,
I said it.
I was going to, but you beat me to it. I said it to certain individuals of certain specific areas within certain specific companies yesterday, and I was not
Yep.
denied. So
So as far as, and I wouldn't say this because I know that we can. No, the family didn't want the death penalty, right, Tara? For any of them, I don't think.
they didn't. No, I wouldn't say that. I would say they didn't want anybody to walk.
Well, they didn't want
didn't-
anybody to walk, but I don't think they wanted the death penalty.
I hadn't heard that myself. If you did, that you and I heard from different people, and that's cool. The thing was, is nobody wanted anybody to be able to walk out of jail at any point in time. They
Right.
wanted accountability. That was what I got, especially after today. So
And back to real quick, the court-appointed attorneys. Tiffany and Cole do have court-appointed attorneys. So there's that. All right. So let's see. Paul says he is the only one that saw Tad drive the skid steer out there where they buried them. He said that Cole left right after the bodies were put in the freezer. He said that he was naked except socks, and then he found a shirt when he got in his truck. But at the time, him and Tad stripped down. Tad was naked. That was sight to see. And they stripped down. Paul kept on his socks because he didn't have any shoes. He got in his truck or in the truck, and when he did, he had a shirt in there, so he put that on. He goes home and he obviously sees his wife when he gets home. He said his wife found it suspicious, and he told her about what he did after the fact. His wife helped help with his finger, and then Lacey Cook came over and she helped as well. He said he did not tell the Cooks what happened. So in all of the testimony, we never heard anybody say anything about the Cooks being involved other than just what we've already told you, what you guys already know. So that's why I say we need to be really careful with that, I think.
agreed.
So he didn't tell the Cooks what happened. He didn't think of how it would affect his family. And
Yep.
he said he's sorry for all the destruction to all the families. The attorney, Joy Miskell, said that the autopsy states the broken neck was from the knife. Well, the autopsy doesn't, well, I guess it kind of does, but yeah, it does say it's from a knife. So there's that.
Wait, well, I think we need to go back through that.
I just read it. While you were gone, I read it all.
Oh, did you?
Yes, and all it says is that is knife. Then let me.
So,
I'll
but
go back.
okay, so I'm not a medical person, right? I'm going to throw some devil's advocate in here. I'm not a medical person. I could see how a knife wound would be absolutely easy to see. But
Listen, Tara. This is what the autopsy report says. In my opinion, based on the circumstances surrounding death and the findings at autopsy, Jilian Kelley died as a result of multiple sharp force trauma consisting of 9 stab wounds and 7 other for 16 total.
I get that. No, I
And
agree.
then it goes on to say that she suffered a devastating upper cervical spinal cord injury. Now, on that, it doesn't say, but in this autopsy report, it doesn't say anything else. So it says she suffered that devastating upper cervical spinal cord injury. And in her opinion, the death was very rapid, as she would have likely not only lost her ability to move her body below her head, but also her ability to breathe on her own. But it doesn't say anything about a hammer to the head or
no, I don't mean
trauma or anything like that.
No, I'm not going for that. I'm going for because the testimony that we heard today regarding Paul saying something about Tad saying and Tiffany saying tried to break her neck, wrong angle. If I don't know, because I'm not a medical person. That would be, and that's why we want to go through this with the medical person to help us understand everything that we're seeing. Is it possible that the original injuries that, because Jillian was clearly incapacitated when Paul found her. When he saw her, she was
But we don't know
incapacitated.
that.
That's what he
That's what
said.
they're gonna have to prove at trial.
She was
Well,
she was who incapacitated her is up for question. I agree with
I
that.
tell you what they're gonna do. The Tad's defense is gonna say that Paul has lied about absolutely everything, and there's no way you can believe him now. And that autopsy report says she died of multiple sharp force or knife wounds, and
So,
that's
but
where they're gonna go with it.
and I
I
will,
don't know if he did it or not, but
well,
I
and
mean, and he also
I'll
says he did stab her. He just doesn't remember how many times.
right, I agree with that, but I live on the fuzzy line of we don't have Tiffany's testimony, and I think that's going to be huge in if it's Tad or Paul, and I think it'll be Paul because the way she's going to want to roll. If Tad doesn't roll over on himself and say, okay, look, I'll take a deal, I'll tell you what happened. They all get deals, they all go to jail. That'll be great, but between Paul doesn't know what happened to Jillian prior to him finding her in the trailer. His testimony says he found her in the trailer. She's unconscious. He's not sure if
Mhm.
she's dead or alive. He has no clue. That's why he goes to check to figure out what. He also testifies to 3 of the individuals that's been implicated in this that she attacked him to get his gun and he had to stab her to
But
incapacitate
he
her.
didn't actually
But he's
testify to that, did he? Was
Yes,
that
he
just one
did.
of those stories he
Yes.
told her?
That
So
was
he
well, that was
testified
a
on the
story.
stand.
That's he on his testimony, he claims he told that story to the 3. It's Tad and either Cora and Cole or Tiffany. I can't remember which 3 it
Right.
was, but there's 3, and he's like, because he felt like he'd been set up, and he was trying to figure out if he had been, and he got the information from Tad saying, "Well, that's more of a fight than she put up from me," and then Tiffany saying, "Tad tried to break her neck, but it was at a weird angle." So she was incapacitated in the trailer. So that's going to be the thing between Tiffany and Tad.
Yeah,
That's
it's
going to be
gonna
the
be a big
struggle.
deal.
So there was some sort of injury that occurred, whether it was incapacitating to the point of unconsciousness or complete debilitation. Something happened to Jillian that kept
Mhm.
her on the ground, kept her from fighting for herself, and put her in a position for Paul to believe she may or may not have some sort of life to her.
Right. And that's what they're
Because
gonna argue about in the trial. They're
I
gonna argue
agree.
about that,
I
and that
agree.
the very end of that autopsy report says about the
Well,
injury
and
to
so
the
that and
spine,
that's
and she was paralyzed, but it doesn't say necessarily how
well, and
that
so that
happened.
but the attorney today, so that's where I was confused about today because Tad's attorney today, as Paul was fighting off Tad's attorney today, saying, "You did this, Paul. You did this. Own up to it." Paul's like, "I don't know if I did because of these variables. She didn't fight me like Veronica did." And Tad's
Yeah.
attorney said, "Well, she was paralyzed, so she couldn't fight you." That's why
Mhm.
I thought somebody would stand up and
Well, and he called her
object.
out on one of those too. He's like,
Yes,
"Wait, you just said
her neck
that
was
she had a
broke,
broken
but
neck."
yes,
Yep.
exactly, exactly. And so it's hard to understand. There's some
Mhm.
details there that have not been released that state that Tad is absolutely culpable for Jillian's injuries because Paul also said the amount of blood that came from Jillian versus
Was much more.
yes,
But then
it's
the
it
attorney said,
gushed.
from Veronica, it was much more.
It was
Yeah, he
yes,
gushed from Veronica, but not as much from Jillian. And
yes.
then the attorney said, "Well, Veronica's a whole lot bigger." So
Oh my
anyway,
God! Can you? That's not how that
yeah,
works. That's not
right.
how that
Oh,
works.
real quick, I just want to say thank you so much, WNC Granny, for becoming a member. Thank you very much. I didn't want to forget that. Okay, carry on. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I'm glad you said that. That was the thing too. That's not how that works. Whether I'm 6'1", I'm 145. Carrie is 5'1". I don't know what your weight is, but we're not. We are clearly different sized individuals. Your vein cut to my vein cut are both going to gush. We're going
Mhm.
to bleed at the same flipping rate. Your weight does not determine, and somebody can correct me, but the weight factor isn't as much of a factor. So for that attorney to say, well, she was bigger, so of course Veronica was going to bleed more. Because you're being bigger doesn't mean you have more blood. It means you have more of a body mass index, not more blood. And that was what she was leading on to today. It was inappropriate as hell, in my opinion. And that's when the defense or the prosecution should have stood up and said, no, that because it had already been argued that whoever's on the stand, I can't remember what witness was on the stand, that was not the medical person who could say medical things about this issue. When they were talking about, well, she's bigger, of course she's going to bleed more. The defense or the prosecution should have stood up and said, you can't say that.
Right.
You don't have
Yeah,
the medical
because I
background.
mean, yeah, a person's body size does kind of correlate with the volume of blood they have, but it was very uncalled
Not to that
for.
effect.
Not
We
to
all have
that,
this.
not to the
No,
way they
my
described
father.
it.
So I'll give you an example. My father was stabbed in the neck a few years back. He's 6'7". I am 6'1". The amount of blood he lost due to be stabbing in the neck, they thought he was dead. He happened to have a little bit more because of his height, not because of his weight. He's 6'7" and 275, 300. I'm 6'1" and 145. We have within a certain specific range about the same amount of blood. But when you're heavier, you're 5'1". Let's say you're 5'1", and I'm terrible with weights and measures, so kill me. 5'1" and like 110 versus 5'1" and 210. The blood amount is going to be pretty close. It's the body mass, it's the body fat content that changes at that point. So I was really surprised for Tad's attorney to say that, but the prosecution to not say, no, that's not how that works. Because I think there's something to that I think the defense set themselves up for failure on that one. It wasn't the time or place for that, but I don't think that's going to work for them if they go to trial.
Kathy said, I will loudly say, I was not wanting the DP. They would not be in general population if that was the sentence. I hope justice is served in those walls, if you catch my drift.
I totally catch that.
And yes, so this is kind of where I'm going, Monica. Even in autopsy, you can't tell what order those things happen in. He heard the
good point.
death rasp. He says he heard, he heard what he says
Good
he
point.
heard. Yeah, that would be like a death rasp.
Yes,
So,
yes.
it's kind of confusing, but I guess my point is this is where Tad's defense is going to go.
I agree. But that, and what is that called when
Patrick, I just read it. I just read the first 2 pages that broke down everything.
what is that called, Carrie? It's not insanity. It's where your mentality is broke down for just a little bit, but it comes back after the fact. It's kind of trauma based. It's a capacity thing. It's a limited capacity. No, it's not. What is it called? For Tad's defense, oh my God, diminished capacity. It would not surprise me if they go towards that angle with Tad at this point. With all the shenanigans and all the mentality and the emotions and everything else. That would not surprise me with this whole situation.
Katie said, and this is right where I'm at, Katie, I would believe that Tad broke her neck and she might have been on her way to passing away and Paul might have actually taken her life with the knife. And that's how I think it happened.
Okay, so fun fact with that one, in most states, and this was an actual thing that was pointed out to me, an actual situation. If somebody is on the top of the Empire State Building and jumps as a form of suicide, and they are shot on their way down because of the ability to survive the jump, it's still considered suicide. It's a legal thing. It sucks, but it's a legal thing. So if Tad's injuries to Jilian are intense enough to have caused the loss of her life, then it doesn't matter Paul's actions. Right. Tad's still the one that's responsible.
And will Tad take the stand?
Wouldn't that be? Oh,
that'd be pretty cool. I don't know.
I wish he would. I want to hear that man speak.
Yep, I do too. All right, so There's still some more. So, Paul said he did not see a knife on Tad, so that's another thing. He said Jilian didn't bleed as much as Veronica. She did not fight him. He said her arm twitched and she was paralyzed, according to the autopsy report. There was no redirect from the state. And with that, that ended Paul Grice's testimony. Witness number 3 was Jamie Beasley. And Beasley is the one that owned the property that Veronica and Jilian were found on. And I always wondered what Beasley looked like. I don't know why, but I always wondered. And so let me tell you. So Beasley, he's a heavy set guy. He's wearing like a long sleeve work shirt rolled up to the elbows with an undershirt on and his shirt unbuttoned. He was fiddling with his shirt or with his hat. So he had a hat on and he took it off and he was really fiddling hard. I mean, like clenching onto that hat. So he's heavy set. He's a darker haired guy. He's 51 years old. He has breathing issues, and I could tell that as soon as he walked in the courtroom. He said his home is 4 to 5 miles from Tad's, and he has lived there for 21 years. He said he has 960 acres. God, give anything for 960 acres. So, Patrick, I'll have to go back and look, but the what I just read did not say that, so I don't know. Anyway, then he said, okay, so the state showed Beasley photos of his land. He said he was has been employed at Seaboard Farms for 21 years. The first part of February, he became ill and he wasn't able to work. He said he knows Tad from growing up together, and
Well,
the
no,
kids.
no, they didn't grow up together. They're kids.
That's
They're
right.
kids.
I corrected that right after. The kids play ball together,
Yes.
so he's known Tad for about 15 years. He said he's never had any ill will towards Tad. They had a verbal agreement for Tad to lease some of that property. Well, he leased all of it. Tad grazed cattle on the property that he leased. He paid $9,600 a year, so he paid $10 an acre. In May of 23, when he started leasing, he said it was renewed on May of 2024 is when that lease was renewed. He later said that he tried to get the check out of Tad. It wasn't going to be any problem, but then he wound up going to Tad's mom's house and she gave him a check. March 29th of 2024, he said he met with Tad and Tiffany. He was at home. He got a call from Tad asking if he was home and could they come visit, and so they did. He said Tad offered to cut down a tree because he wanted the stump and the bases, and Beasley agreed to that. He said Tiffany was acting very hyper. He had not seen her act that way any time prior. I thought that was kind of interesting too. Maybe she was nervous, knew what was going to happen. I don't know, but he said she was acting very hyper. The concrete that he said came from an old barn they had. Tad asked to put the skid steer in a corral so Jamie's horses wouldn't get to it. That was the reasoning anyway. He had got home, so this is, I think, March 29th. He got home from the casino at around 5 to 5:30 a.m. He said he did not drink while he was at the casino. When he got home, there was 3 bales of hay stacked. The trailer was parked on the north side of the drive and the skid steer in the corral, and he went to bed. He said he woke up around 11:30 in the morning or so. He looked out his door. He saw the trailer and the skid steer, and they were gone. So the trailer and skid steer were gone when he woke up around 11:30. He said he did not see Tad or Tiffany, and he never heard anything, but he sleeps with a CPAP machine, and he said something else.
Oxygen.
Oxygen, that was it. He said he called Tad to see if he could pick up the check for the upcoming lease since Beasley was out of work. And it was a month early for that lease check, but Tad said he would do it later that day or the next. Um, let's see. Beasley was headed to his mom's house and he got a text from his mail lady asking, what is all the excitement going on out that way? And that they had found someone deceased out in that area. He said about 15 to 20 minutes later, he called Tad to see if he knew anything. And at first, Tad said he hadn't heard anything. Um, and then there was something brought up, and maybe you took a better note on this, Tara, but about people thinking that Wrangler was involved. And I believe Tad told Beasley people are thinking Wrangler is involved. Did you take better notes on that part?
That's what I got out of it too.
Okay. March 31st, Beasley said he was outside working in his truck around 8:45 to 9 a.m. and Tad came to check and feed the cows. He asked Tad about the deal with Wrangler, and Tad said as far as he knew, he was in rehab. He had found out who was missing, and Tad said they were crawling all over him. He said there were skid steer marks on his property. Jamie pointed out to Tad that he didn't have a skid steer. Are you watching the comments? Do we need to catch up on any?
I know I went to go check
Okay.
something else out, but I have not seen anything that was
Okay.
alerting. I think we're good.
He said when he was talking to Tad, now this I found super interesting. Super interesting. He said when he was talking to Tad asked Jamie to put his phone in his truck. And Jamie didn't know why, but he did it anyway. So in other words, Tad wanted to have a conversation with Jamie Beasley, and he wanted to make sure there were no phones around. Well, I'm sure because he didn't want it recorded or whatever. But he asked Jamie to put Jamie's own phone in his truck. And Jamie just did it without asking any questions. I don't know if Tara said, hey, I want to talk to you, but go put your phone in the car. I'm going to have 10 questions for her before I do that. Do you guys find it weird?
That was definitely interesting. But he didn't strike me as the strong personality type either in terms of Beasley.
No, he didn't. He said later that evening, after thinking on things, he started to get, like bad gut feeling. He said he went by that Sunday and he picked the check up from Lori Sue Colum for the lease. He said his bad feeling got worse and he started thinking that Tad may have buried them there. He said he didn't call law enforcement. He has 2 young boys. He's a single dad, and he was afraid that law enforcement would think he did it and jeopardize his sons. And at that point, he did visibly tear up. So, I do believe that he was genuinely worried, this is all on my property, things are looking a little weird, and he's not going to be able to answer questions because, he didn't know apparently. So he did not call law enforcement though. So that's another thing. He said that he decided he would just wait for law enforcement to go to him. He said that OSBI interviewed him. They picked him up from work. He has used meth in the past, but the dates from March 25th of 24 to April 10th of 24, he did not use, and they didn't ask about any other dates. Did you have something you were going to say, Tara?
No, you're good.
Oh, okay. I heard you unmute. He's shown pictures of the slab of concrete on top of the freezer. And I want to say the rest of us weren't shown any of these exhibits. So, in most courtrooms, when we watch a court, a trial or something, they will put those exhibits up on, projector screen or TV. They didn't do that here. So we didn't, the only way we could see was like trying to peek around the attorneys and stuff. He said it looked like a skid steer that had moved the concrete. He could see tracks from what he thinks are tires. He says he does, and this is another thing. So he's shown the picture of the skid steer that OSBI took from the scene, right? And Beasley says now when he's shown that picture, he doesn't recognize that skid steer. And he can't verify that it's the one on that Tad had on the property. What are your thoughts on that, Tara? Did you have thoughts when he said that stuff?
Yeah, I had some inclination that he knew
Like
better.
I had thoughts.
Yeah, he was talking about the tires were different. But
Yeah, he was
I imagine with a skid steer, when you personally own a skid steer, you have your personal own markings, just like a car. You have these little dents and dings and things like that that help you identify that it's yours, because we're talking about a country out there where skid steers are probably a dime a dozen. Paul Grice even testified that he had grown up around them. So it seems like a very familiar piece of equipment to know how to use. And you would know, it wouldn't surprise me if somebody could say, that's that skid steer and that's that skid steer, just like that's that person's horse and that's that person's horse. I would think that there's some sort of identifying markers or something. I'm not from the area. I wasn't raised there, but that's like, I can tell my Bose truck from somebody else's truck that's almost identical. Like there's something to it. So I have curiosities about that for sure.
Ashley, I do wonder that. She said that doesn't look good. Did he say he was afraid of the 5? Seems like many were. They told us to be careful of them. Remember? Yes, they did. He didn't say anything about being afraid of them. It was just those couple of things, like putting the phone in the truck, on the stand, saying he didn't recognize the skid steer, but he had seen that skid steer. I don't know. It's just those kind of things. Like, is he maybe kind of afraid to still come out with the whole truth? I don't know. I don't know. I only can say like how I kind of took things. Yeah, like maybe he's afraid of them. Um, they are dangerous. So yeah, I don't know. Somebody said in the chat, Tara, I've not heard this, that the girls, I heard today on the news, they found the girls' phones. Is that true?
They
I've not heard that.
I think you're talking about the flip phones and these. I think they're talking about Trevor Ridgeway's testimony regarding the cell phones
Oh,
and the
okay.
incinerator. I think so. That comes later. We're getting to that.
Okay, okay. How can Grice's wife not call the police when her husband told her he just killed 2 women? Yeah, good question. And the Tad's attorney did ask him. It was a part of his plea deal that
No,
his
it's not.
wife, that
No,
his
it's not.
wife. No, that's what I was saying. She asked
Oh,
him, was it part of the plea deal that his wife would get immunity? He said that was never spoken of.
correct.
The only thing that was spoken of on his plea deal was that the death penalty would be off the table. Yeah, it really, the fear was palpable. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Oops. Okay, so uh, then he said 1 week prior, Tad and Jamie had a conversation. And in that conversation, Tad said that he had seen, or that he had had some hay stolen. And he was asking, and Ashley, you'll find this pretty interesting. He was asking if Seaboard had cameras on their hog farms that would reach Highway 95. So Seaboard across the road and down, he was wanting to know if they had cameras that would reach 95. That was interesting. That's important, very important, because
Well,
Seaboard is just down the road from the scene.
yeah, Tad had told in Beasley's testimony, he had said that Tad had said, I've had some hay bales stolen, and I want to know if I can use the cameras to see if I can catch some trucks leaving with some hay bales around the time I think they were stolen. It's almost like he was trying to set up to figure out if there were
If
any
they had
cameras in the
cameras.
area. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's
he was
exactly
using,
how I took it.
yeah, exactly.
Yep. You want to know if there was cameras in that area because that's where they were planning on doing it. And okay, so this was 1 week prior. So they had discussed it a week prior. Very interesting. And let's see. Then there was a cross-examination. Now, the attorney that wasn't there yesterday, he was there today. His name is Kent Bridge. I would also say he's probably a pretty good attorney. Jamie, on the cross-examination, Jamie said he never saw the hole dug on the property. And that was it. That was the cross-examination, and Jamie Beasley was finished. Do you want to add anything to Jamie's testimony that I didn't get, Tara?
Nope, I don't think so.
Okay. So then the fourth witness was Brian, and I didn't get his last name because I knew I wasn't going to spell it right. But he
It
is a
was
special.
Nzinga.
That's it. He's a special agent with OSBI, 8 years service in April. He is CLEAT certified. He's 10 years in the Weatherford, Oklahoma PD from 2007 to 2017. He started as a patrol officer. He worked up to a detective. He is a crime scene agent and polygraph examiner for OSBI. And then the state just presented some exhibits to him. Exhibit number 3 was a hammerhead and wooden handle. 5 talks about roll of duct tape that was collected from the hole at the burial site. Number 4, exhibit number 4, leather glove from the chest freezer. And then there was items 26, 27, 28, and 30, and those were Carhartt jacket located in the hole of the burial site, cloth glove out of the burial site, a knife handle in the burial site, and a blood-stained brown sweatshirt in the hole. And then some more exhibits. Black hooded sweatshirt at the burial site, blood-stained reddish hooded sweatshirt at the burial site, 2 cloth gloves, and swabs from the stock trailer. And then he said that they submitted DNA samples from each of the suspects. There was no cross-examination on that, and with that, he was finished. So then the next witness was Jason Ott. He has worked for OSBI for 5 years. He has 28 years of law enforcement experience. I didn't get anything out of his testimony. Did you grab anything, Tara? From Jason's?
Yeah, let me go to that. Jason was simply used to, he had the search warrants. He's the one who took the swabs, the DNA swabs from Tad, Tiffany, Cole, and Cora, and Paul. He took them and gave them to Brian and Nzinga, and that's the end of that. They did mention that Tad was cooperative. So on the cross from Jason Ott, they wanted to know if Tad was the one that was cooperative, because that's the only person who was interested in cross, and it was confirmed that Tad was cooperative with the DNA swabs.
Oops, I gotta turn the microphone back on. Hi, Pine Needle. Thank you so much for being here.
Hello, Pine Needle.
Yeah, Winnie, I completely agree. It makes me sick to my stomach too. People are like, this is like a Lifetime movie, and I'm like, this is like a Nightmare from Hell on Halloween movie. Like you couldn't make up this kind of stuff. It's just unbelievable to me.
It is definitely something else.
So the next witness was Lieutenant Trevor Ridgeway. He is a special agent for OSBI. He has been with OSBI for 11 years. He's CLEAT certified. He was previously a detective sergeant for the Weatherford, Oklahoma Police Department. He holds bachelor's and master's degrees. And he said he investigates major crimes and supervises other agents. He is the agent in charge on this case. He said he obtained 2 flip phones, a bag of kitty litter, and a claw hammer from an incinerator well, I guess it was, an incinerator well. One of the IMEIs was able to be matched to one of the burner phones. One of the burner phones bought by Tiffany Adams. Cora had discussed this with them. So those were the burner phones, not Veronica and Jillian's phones.
Correct. Veronica and Jillian's phones have not
Have
been.
they not been found?
They've not been recovered.
Correct. Okay. Let's see. Jillian was deceased before getting to the burial site. He says they likely lost biological evidence because of decomposition from the women being sealed and disposed of. And that's where those charges, those other charges come from. Then let's see, Exhibit 3, OSBI
I'm going to
lab.
stop you for just a second. When they go back
ahead.
to when they asked Trevor about Jillian being dead before she got to the burial site, there's a reason that was pointed out. Part of that reason was the line of questioning that Buddy Leach was going after. The defense objected to. And the defense objected to it because it was hearsay. They were asking Ridgeway do you think Jillian was deceased by the time, and by that point in time, the defense had stopped and said, that's hearsay. Buddy finished his question, and the question was basically, do you think she was dead by the time that Paul got to her? Paul saw her. So they stopped that line of questioning. That objection was sustained. Then they said, do you think she was dead by the time she got to the site? And that's when it was like, yes. By that point in time, we do believe she was gone because of the spinal cord injury. That there was an instant death, spinal cord injury, but there's some blurry lines there or something. So Buddy Leach was trying to do something, and the defense was trying to put a stop on it at the same time in terms of Jillian, specifically to Tad. Tad's defense was really interested in that. Are you on mute again?
Oh, Ashley, so you're telling me there was no witness intimidation. When Sophie and I were reading chat, we got a threat and we were at home and knew nothing. And I mean, I can confirm that there was threats. I can confirm that Rock and I definitely were. Somebody tried to run us off the road twice. And Frank Twombly did threaten us in our Facebook, or threaten me in our Facebook group. So, I mean, if they're willing to do that, there most definitely could be intimidation. Oh, let's see. Okay, so that last exhibit 3 was the hammerhead, and presumptive testing positive for blood. Later testing could not identify the stain. So that's why Tad's defense is pushing this so much, because yes, the hammerhead, and Tad could have hit Jillian with the hammer. It did test positive for blood on presumptive testing, but later testing, it could not be verified. Cross-examination, Kent Bridge did the cross-examination. He called him Tad Column? Yeah, Tad Column. So I caught that. I was like, your defense attorney probably being paid a pretty price. You might get your defendant's last name right. And all that was that Jason has not had a conversation with Tad. That's all that was asked. Have you had a conversation with Tad? And Jason Ridgeway said, no, I have not. That was it. And then the state rest. There were no more witnesses from Tad's, or no witnesses from Tad's attorneys. At 12 p.m. today, the preliminary was completed. The judge said that the court finds sufficient probable cause to conclude the offenses have been committed. All counts go on to trial. The defense waived arraignment and the 30 days, but not the speedy trial. I've seen that kind of floating around today too. So Tad Colum did not waive a speedy trial. The defense states that it's still possible to do it. I think they were saying within 30 days. I'm not sure exactly what they're saying, but because it is a potential death penalty case.
So they were going on about the arraignment within 30 days. We need the transcript. They had an off-the-record conversation. The defense had an off-the-record conversation with the court reporter, and it was stated that on the record, the court reporter could have the transcript returned about mid-January. and they were looking at a trial date to start in mid-January. The defense originally wanted to push it out. Then they backtracked and said, look, we'll go with mid-January, but we're coming with the memorandum. We understand what that means for us. But we're coming with the memorandum in mid-January on the criminal court docket, but no speedy trial waiver, but we will waive our arraignment.
Right.
So that memorandum basically says we're going to come to you with evidence that you're wrong. We're going to come to you and say this is a whole. We're basically wasting the court's time. There's nothing that holds our defendant accountable, and you should just basically let everything go. It's some light research on memorandums in the criminal justice system. That's kind of what it sounds like they're trying to do, in that or along the lines of trying to get an extension on their timeline.
Oh, I don't know what I just did. I just moved tabs around. Sorry. I'm like, oh, oops. Tina asked, did I press charges? No, because we didn't know who it was. I mean, we knew who. Well, no, we didn't know who it was that was trying to run us off the road, so we couldn't do anything. And the law enforcement out there probably wouldn't have done anything anyway. They've been like, well, maybe you ladies should leave town. I don't know. And then, okay, so as far as the girls' phones, no, they have not been found. I promise they have not been found. Then so Monday, January 13th at 9 a.m., that is the next hearing for Tad, but the defense is going to submit a memorandum to the district judge, so his probably will not be held until March. A speedy trial could be done June or July. So then that was it. So don't expect much January 13th. His attorneys, I don't even think were able to do that date. I heard them say something about they have to interview some people and witnesses and things like that. So it probably will be held in March, not January. And so I think that was all I have. Do you have anything else, Tara?
Good Lord, no, you had enough.
And I didn't even think I took that great of notes today, but
let
me tell you, our hands hurt. I mean, like in college, you have to write real fast. This was like that on speed. It was a little crazy. Right. So I'm glad that we got it. Yeah. I want to show you guys something real quick. Yeah, that live was a little bit scary. Both of them were a little scary, but that's all right. We did it. I want to show you guys something. If you don't have anything else, Tara does the chat. Do you guys have any questions? Anything we can try to answer before we end?
So far, so good.
Yeah, I'd like to know that too. If all 5 met up after the deed was done to discuss the cover-up. I don't know. I don't know. Thank you so much. We really appreciate every single one of you guys being here. All of the new members, thank you so much. The super chats, Tara saying we will have to come up with something even better for her next time. I have some ideas.
You understand karma, right? You know how karma works? I'm just asking for a friend. Oh, good grief.
But real quick, before we go, I want to show you guys because I can't figure out how to connect this to my YouTube channel, but let me show you. So I designed some merchandise and I tried to like make stuff that would be cool for everybody no matter what. And like I said, I got my sweatshirt today and it is so cool. So hopefully you guys can see this. Let me see. Let me make it all big screen. Did that work? There we go.
That works.
I think that's a little better. Okay. So there's True Crime Junkie, and these are like available and everything. So True Crime Junkie, and there's I'm basically a detective. I'd like to buy that for a few people on YouTube. I'm basically a detective. Then there's one that says I like murder shows, comfy clothes, and maybe 3 people. That's me. That's me. So I thought that was kind of funny. And then the sweatshirt I got is this one right here. And it says fueled by mystery and justice.
Nice.
and it turned out really, really cute. So anyway, just want to show you guys those, and I'll throw the link in the chat. But that's a great way to help support the channel, and they're really cool. So, and it's not like just, about me. It's like just cool stuff I think anybody would want to wear. So that's it. Thank you so much, Yep, for that link. Also, thank you, Yep, for doing the summaries for us from yesterday. I really
Yes.
appreciate that you put it in writing for us. That helped a lot. So yeah, I'm tired. I'm sure Tara is very tired. And oh, CB, that would be a nope. That would be a big nope, but yeah.
That's funny.
So, and yes, please visit Yep's channel. Ashley, if you could put yours in the chat. I don't know if Ashley can. So Yep or somebody, if you could put Ashley's in the chat, I'd appreciate it. And that's it, you guys. Thank you so very much for hanging out with us again tonight. And I'm going to come up with something to kind of go over all this in the style that we normally do. That's not just our notes. So that won't be next week, but it'll probably be the week after. And meanwhile, I hope you guys all have a wonderful Christmas, holiday, whatever you want to call it. I hope you get to spend time with your family and loved ones. And we'll be chatting with you guys soon. Thank you. Love you guys. Tara, love you. Thank you so much.
Love you, Carrie. You guys have a great night. Good night.
Bye bye.